Second down and 3. As Dalton fires, it's Gallup for a first down and a Cowboys touchdown.
Welcome to SicEm365 Radio.
What a first half for Gallup. First and goal from the 7 to the end zone. Looking for Gallup. Michael Gallup.
SicEm365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Only 4 incompletions for Dalton today. 17 of 21. And he finds his man, C.D. Lamb, for a Cowboys touchdown. 52 yards from Dalton to Lamb.
Have you downloaded the SicEm365 Radio app? Do it today on the App Store and Google Play.
As Dalton gets it into the hands of C.D. Lamb, and he takes it in for another Cowboys touchdown.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
If you can't come in and put work in the building, go out to the practice field and work hard, do your lifts and do what you're supposed to do, you should not be here. This is a job. We are getting paid a whole lot of money. There are a lot of people that watch us and invest their time and their money into buying our jerseys and buying a whole bunch of and they care about it.
Here's David Smoak and Paul Catalina.
All right, here we go on this Monday, the week after Christmas, the week of New Year's. At some point, 2020, thank God, will end here sometime later this week, and I hope 2021 is better because I don't know how it can get worse, but you never know. Good afternoon. On a Monday, it's the 28th of December. Craig Smoak is out this week. Paul Catalina, David Smoak, Tyler Bolden runs the mothership on SicEm365 Radio. Paul, I did a cut-in with the Big 12 Network, and I was talking to Ari, Gabe Eichert, and then also with Dave Archer. And I started discussing the quarterback depth chart with Baylor because Charlie Brewer has been basically the starter for about, 3 3/4 years. Mm-hmm. And so he's on his way to Utah. How many total combined passes do you think Gary Bohannon and Jacob Zeno have thrown? I'm talking about attempts.
20?
See, that's what I thought. Yeah. And I was wrong. We're wrong. We're like 1/3 of what's
60.
60, exactly 60.
Okay.
So we were discussing the quarterback depth chart, and there's a couple of things I want to get to today. Paul Catalina, David Smoak, again, SicEm365 Radio, to kind of talk about where Dave Aranda is at Baylor. And Colt Barber's going to join us at 3:15 to discuss where they might be, in his opinion, or what they need to look at, what Dave Aranda might be looking at when it comes to the offensive coordinator's position, wide receivers coach, and whatever else happens with the offensive staff. So I thought it was about, I actually said somewhere between 18 and 22. That's actually, they've 32 of 60, 1 pick, 3 touchdowns, 435 yards. And so that's a little bit more than I thought, but it's still 60.
Well, I guess, what was the game? Was it Kansas State last year where Gary Bohannon came in and played the last quarter and a half of a game that wasn't a blowout? I mean, he just came in and played because Charlie Brewer got a stinger or something. So, I guess that would probably account for maybe half of those passes.
So if, in fact, Gary Bohannon sticks it out and stays with Baylor and stays through spring drills or even to the next semester, because that's also something that we haven't heard. And I don't think we've seen anything about him. He's not supposed to leave, but who knows? In this day and age, you can leave anywhere, anytime you want to. So he's 14 of 26, 1 interception, 1 touchdown. And Zeno is actually 18 of 38. Now, both of these young men are the future, and of course, Blake Shapen, the young man who is the freshman from Louisiana, and incoming Kyron Drones. They were knocked out of the playoffs, got beat up pretty good by Katy. He'll be next up. He'll come in during the midterm, which will be sometime in mid-January. And it makes you think, Craig said this last week, it's kind of a cleansing in a way. Some people were ready for something new, and obviously not only some of the fans, but also so was Charlie Brewer. And so was Dave Aranda when it comes to the coordinators. So that's something to put into perspective. And an outright, if they can, I hope for their sake, have an absolute 100% beat them up, grind it out, and I mean that in a positive way, competition during spring drills between all four of those. If Bohannon stays, Zeno's back, Shapen's coming back, and then coming in as drones. Wouldn't you love to see just an all-out, just not turf war in a negative way at starting quarterback?
I would. Actually, my hope for Gary Bohannon, because I'm starting to think that maybe he's not a quarterback, but he's an athlete, is to find a position different for him and let the other three guys go at it. Now, and the thing is great about Zeno and Shapen, now Kyron Jones falls under the regular rules where he's going to be a true freshman next year and his year counts, but this year didn't count for either of those guys.
No.
So, I mean, Blake Shapen, for all intents and purposes, is a true freshman, and Jacob Zeno, for all intents and purposes, is he's still a redshirt freshman. I mean, so they've got plenty of time to grow and change. And then Kyron Jones, I think, has the ability where he's going to he'll probably show out pretty quickly with the team athletically, but it depends on the reps that he gets. And to me, I think Gary Bohannon, maybe wind up somewhere else, but I might be wrong there. I haven't seen him play enough quarterback to know, or when they've played him, and the reason I think this is when they've played him at quarterback, they've very much limited what the offense is for him. And that's two different offensive coordinators.
Exactly right, because you think of Bohannon, he's going to run the Wildcat. On occasion, he would throw a pass. He's got himself a gun as well, but one of the things is that he didn't even really get to do that much. It wasn't the way you saw some other quarterbacks, the big, strong quarterbacks, that when they ran well. I always think of one of the guys that UT found a niche for him was Tyrone Swoops, because he was not very good at being a quarterback. They found the niche, the kid from Whitesboro. Blake Bell at Oklahoma. They found what was best for him. He turned out to be now an NFL tight end. A lot of other news to get to as well, but also the process. Who's the one that came up with the fan base at Baylor could not stand the term the process?
Matt Rule.
They beat Washington yesterday. They're not going to win 5 or 6 games, I guess. They're
5-9 now.
5-10. And they created a mess in the NFC East, and that's another story we get to as well. The Cowboys are still alive with a game to go, and most likely you might think they might end up making the playoffs.
Well, Dwayne Haskins has been cut, which is something they should have known a week ago.
They should have cut him on Monday after they saw him at a strip club.
Yeah, I mean, they should have. And we'll have
because of how he played that.
We'll have Ryan Leaf, who's made all those mistakes and more, and can talk to them here in about 20 minutes. And then later on, I spoke to our old friend Adam Winkler, who covers the Redskins for a TV station in Norfolk, Virginia. And he said that just the idea that you wouldn't cut him after this is the second time he's violated protocol, and your head coach is a cancer survivor, and not a cancer survivor like he's 5 years out of cancer. He's 4 weeks out of cancer. He rang the bell 4 weeks ago. So he's very much at risk as the highest risk person maybe in the entire Washington football team complex. And you don't cut him because you know what happened? I compared it on the interview. It reminded me of something that happened here locally. It reminded me of Chris Parr, where, he broke the rules, but he was so good. And then if you're Ron Rivera, you think Taylor Heineke and Steven Montez are going to be my quarterbacks against the Panthers, and I don't know. We'll just roll the dice on Dwayne Haskins and see what happens. And the fact that this decision happened so quickly after the game yesterday means that Ron Rivera knew exactly what he should have done the minute that he benched Dwayne Haskins in the third quarter yesterday.
They have a guy named after a beer.
Heineke.
Yeah, he at least gave them a little bit of something. They don't need much on offense. As I've said, they just need someone who can walk and chew gum. Almost what they need with Washington offensively is not much different than what Baylor could have used sometimes on offense this year with the defense. Just manage the game. Don't screw it up. Maybe get yourself a couple of 10 points, 12, 14 points, and the defense can set up another 10 or 12. So we got a load of the show. Colt Barber today at 3:15. Ryan Leaf at 3:30. 3:45. Remember Shannon Hall, Shoemaker's high school football coach that turned them around with the Grey Wolves? He's in the playoffs. They're in the quarterfinals at Summit, Mansfield Summit. In the quarterfinals. Now, they got a hell of a game coming up this week, but they're coming off the win against Colleyville Heritage. They were undefeated. He'll join us at 3:45. And then a sad note, Mark Lumley, the longtime assistant coach, Baylor softball coach under Glenn Moore, passed away, succumbed to cancer. We'll have a former player join us today who's a coach up in South Dakota.
Yeah, Jenny Fuller. You probably know her as Jenny Isham. She pitched for Baylor. I don't want to say how long ago it was because I think she was right before Whitney Canyon Well, she was the pitcher right before Whitney Canyon. So that would have been, 6-7 years ago or so. And she's a coach in South Dakota at Northern State now. She and her husband, Brad, are coaches up there. She's an old friend of mine. So she's going to come on the show today and talk about Coach Lumley, and who was beloved by his players up and down. And I can't imagine what it's like to be the Baylor softball family today. He and Coach Moore were attached at the hip, and that's got to be really tough for Coach Moore as well.
So we'll also today have Adam Winkler from Virginia, covers the Redskins with Paul around 4:30. Phil Bennett, former Baylor defensive coordinator, today at 5 o'clock, and a few notes again on the Cowboys as well. So that's where we are. We need to take a call or two. 254-339-1122. Glenn just texted me. The audio and the picture not in sync, so we need to fix that if we possibly can. And perhaps it's in some sort of slumber mode after the time off. We'll try to get that fixed as well here as soon as we possibly can. 254-339-1122.
Stephen from Virginia, you're on SicEm365 Radio on the Impact Health Labs caller line. Happy New Year.
Guys, I came with two things. The first one is I'm really excited to see this quarterback competition. It could go a number of ways. I'm really excited to hear what Cole has to say about that. The second is, with Andy Dalton being a TCU grad and being a Texas Sun, yesterday had to be the greatest moment of his NFL career, right? Like when they go into Andy Dalton's house, the Cowboys jersey is going to be the one that hangs in the front of the room, because I don't really care what he did with the Bengals. This is probably what he wanted to do his whole life, is be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. So I know it threw a wrench in the NFC East, but it certainly made Andy Dalton's day. Happy New Year, guys.
Thank you, Stephen. Great to hear from you. Stephen, again, has been in and out of course, quarantine at times in Virginia. Stays in touch with us on the text line, brought to you by Riverbend Liquor and Wine at 254-339-1122. That's the number to call. The chat room, brought to you by Willis Law Firm on SicEm365.com in the premium section, available as well. And you can also tweet us if you want at SicEm365 or at SicEm365 Radio, at Paul Catalina, at David Smoak. And you can even tweet Craig as well if you want, at Craig Smoak. He's having the week off. Now, a couple of other things. He mentioned the Cowboys. So we have the Baylor offensive coordinator search, which really has, you cannot find anything. Colt's going to give us an idea of what maybe they're looking for. Secondly, you have the quarterback battle in the spring. Bohannon and Zeno, Chapin, and also Kyron Drones. Combined, there's 60 attempts, 60 passes. That's okay. But you have to have spring drills. You cannot have another spring where there's no 3 weeks of practice. You need the spring drills, and you need the game. You need the competition day in and day out, and it needs to be like everybody has a chance, because only way you're going to push them is if everybody has a chance. It wouldn't have been open if Charlie Brewer's back for another year. There would have been competition, and who knows, they could supplant him. I'm not saying that wouldn't have happened. But when he's there, then you're stuck. Not in a negative or positive way. You can look at it either way, and I know some of you will. Now you have what you would think if you put them in order. Zeno, Bohannon, Chapin, and Drones. And I got a feeling, I'm not sure that's the way it ends up. I think Zeno's the leader in the clubhouse, because it seemed like, because when he came in, and then Dave Aranda mentioned this, Paul, that he was number 2 in the depth chart, even though the depth chart that was released each week had Bohannon as number 2. They had inside the field house, or inside the locker room, inside the coaching staff, Zeno had moved up to number 2. So he'll be the leader in the clubhouse. How do you think those 4 end up? If you come out of spring drills sometime in, what is it, April or May, how would you say the 4 will end up?
I would say that it's Zeno, Chapin, Drones, Bohannon at a new position.
And Bohannon possibly at a new position.
Yes.
Okay.
He's such a good athlete. He's maybe even a great athlete. I mean,
we don't really know.
But we don't know that. I mean, but he's a very good athlete. We can see the way he can run. He's a big guy. I don't know if he can catch. I don't know if he can tackle. I don't know.
Most quarterbacks have great hands.
What these things? Yeah. So
most quarterbacks.
Yeah. So if you want to move him to, because look, they've got tight ends coming back next year. Both of them, Sims and Dabney.
Yeah.
That's good. But if you want to put him as a kind of a Kyle Pitts type, because Kyle Pitts is technically a tight end, but he's big and lanky.
He's so good at tight end. He was a part of the Bolitnikoff Award finalists. I don't think that's ever happened among a tight end. Maybe I can't remember.
But if you want a long, quick, rangy tight end, then to me, that's a fit for Gary Bohannon. And I think that's, and the only reason I say this is because going back to what you said, and Tyrone Swoops was a fair comparison in that they really do limit the offense when he's in there. And it's not just one staff. It's both staffs have done this that have completely different offensive philosophies. So 2 different staffs have seen something and gone, well, this is what we want Gary to do. And we're going to leave it to this. And that's why I think he's got to stay there.
All right, we're going to have Ryan Leaf at 3:30, Shannon Hall from Summit High School in Mansfield today at 3:45. There were a couple of wow in high school football, the 5As and 6As now in the quarterfinal round. Colt Barber, SicEm365.com. Here's a guy that behind the scenes, a lot of times none of you know how much he's doing, but also what he posts on the site, nuggets, notes, and of course, many things when it comes to Baylor football and athletics as well. Colt, thanks for your time. Hope you had a great Christmas. And so it sounds like to me that it's airtight. Is that right? What Dave Aranda, Mack Rhodes and company are looking at when it comes to that offensive coordinator position?
Yeah, and you would expect this. We've gone through this twice now with Mack Rhodes for searching for head coaches, looking for Matt Rule and obviously Dave Aranda. And I'm not surprised at all that it's this way. Now, I did think there would be a few more notes or rumors, whatever you want to call, floating around there, just from the standpoint that this is a coordinator position. This isn't a head coaching position, but there's not. And obviously the Christmas holidays impact that, how quickly they can move to make decisions or make hires in this climate with the bowl games going on. And really, I mean, it's been less than a week since everything happened with Larry Fedora and George Munoz. And I'm just really curious to see how quickly they do move. I wouldn't be surprised to see something within the next week.
Yeah, Colt, what do you think they're going to go for as far as philosophy goes?
I think there's something to that players not plays phrase that Dave Aranda continually talked about at the end of the season, particularly just being able to get guys in position to make plays and not necessarily have to have a scheme that is tried and true every single year. We saw that with Art Briles in the way that he would, conform his offense to the players he had available and the different things that he would do, specifically at quarterback. And I'm not saying that Larry Fedora was against that, but he was a system guy. He would implement his system, recruit to that system, and just kind of that's the direction he went. But he never really showed that ability to, or the willingness to really adapt to what he had. And I think Larry Fedora Dave Aranda might have said that there's a time for a change, and I don't know that we're going to be able to do this quickly enough to what Larry Fedora wants to do specifically. So I think that they're going to go to that. They're going to say, let's get an offensive coordinator in here who's going to build an offense in a way that is going to be consistent, but they're able to get guys in space, let them make plays. Because in a place like Texas, where you have so many athletes that are out in these high schools, you're going to be able to recruit offensive talent. And when they get those guys on campus, how do you utilize them? If you have that talent, you're in a hotbed like Texas. If you're not having a productive offense, even if it's just an inconsistent productive offense, you're doing something wrong, because it shouldn't be extremely difficult to get playmakers. It's just how do you use them at the end of the day. And I think Dave Aranda is figuring that out, or has figured that out. He saw it at LSU, the way they just got guys in space to make plays. And I think he can do the same thing at Baylor. We've seen it. We've seen TCU do it in the past. We've seen Texas Tech continually do it. And there's no reason that Baylor can't get back to that level of just continually making plays in space with athletes that they recruit from the high school ranks in Texas.
Will it need to be that complementary football that Matt Rule had his philosophy about that? Is that the same thing that Dave Aranda's used to when he's had success at LSU, Wisconsin, elsewhere?
Man, it's a great question, because I think Dave Aranda realized that he can win with the defensive philosophy that he has, but also with playing more up tempo. Now, if you look at his best defenses, and even at the ones at LSU, they're not running 90 plays a game or 85 plays a game. They're in the 70 range at the high end, and so it's not like they're out there running defenses into the ground or putting their defense in a tough position. But I think that they have the ability to run more tempo than they are. but utilize it in a way where they have a solid run game. They can grind out games when they need to, and then really turn it on when they want to, as far as tempo goes. And I don't know if that is considered complementary football, but I think they have the ability to play with tempo, to protect their defense at the same time, and also have a lot of success on offense.
Cole, do you expect the new offensive coordinator to want to make more staff changes or bring some of his people in? Because right now there's only been two coaches removed. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think it spoke volumes that Joe Wickline is still there, of Dave Aranda's opinion on Joe Wickline at the offensive line position, because that would have been an easy move to make. He came in, everyone knew that was Larry Fedora's guy. But I think that kind of spoke to what Joe Wickline brought to the table. Maybe not necessarily the coach, right? I think that he was very good in that year that he was there. But I just have a hard time seeing any offensive coordinator coming in that wants to inherit an offensive line coach. I think they're going to want to bring in their own guy. Especially, I mean, you talk about some of these potential candidates who are offensive line coaches themselves. And they're going to want a guy in there that understands what they're doing, or they're going to coach it themselves. So I think that's one that you see. Looking at Juice Johnson and obviously Sean Bell, those are two guys that I think that from a recruiting standpoint, you have to have recruiters on your staff. And I think both of those guys are going to recruit. They already have relationships with guys around Texas. And not that they're not valuable as assistant coaches, but college is about recruiting. And those guys, I really see that they'll stay on the staff for the long term. I don't know. Maybe they switch positions. Maybe the offensive coordinator comes in and says, "Hey, I'd rather have you at this position instead of tight ends for Coach Bell, or I'd rather have you at receivers, Coach Johnson, instead of running backs." I don't know what that will stand for, but I do believe that they'll both remain on staff. But he's going to have an opportunity. He's going to have to hire a quarterback coach, a receivers coach, and potentially an offensive line coach. He'll have the opportunity to do some stuff for his own to kind of implement what he wants.
Colt, do you think it's not like they have Trevor Lawrence coming back, and it's not like Charlie Brewer's coming back with the nearly 700, 800, 900 passes he's thrown? You have Jacob Zeno, Bohannon, and obviously you have Chapin and the incoming Kyron Drones. It does appear, because of how the last game ended, that Jacob Zeno's right now 1A. Do you think he has any input at all? And I'm not saying in hiring a coach, but how much do you think Dave Aranda will lean, or at least get Jacob Zeno involved once he has targeted, whether it's 2, 3, or how many candidates as offensive coordinator?
I think the biggest discussions will come, were you recruited by this particular coach? What was your relationship like with this particular coach? Depending on where they come from, Jacob Zeno or any of the quarterbacks might have never been in contact with the coach. But I think that has to be a key factor, because you're talking about every single one of those quarterbacks that are going to be on the roster have at least 4 years remaining, and potentially 5. And it's a strange situation because Gary Bohannon will not. Gary will actually have 3 years he remains at quarterback. But they're going to be guys with multiple years and not 1 year guys. So they're going to be playing with this offensive coordinator for multiple years. And if they don't have a good relationship with them, if something happened on the recruiting trail that they clashed and they didn't have a good relationship, that becomes an issue. You don't want to run off a quarterback, but you also don't want to make a decision based on a quarterback, right? Of an opinion, because opinions change. Things were misunderstood on the recruiting trail. I think that will be a focus. But if Dave Aranda is sitting here trying to make a decision based on what his quarterbacks believe an offensive coordinator is like, and this isn't them deciding to go to Baylor because of an offensive coordinator. This is talking about making a hire that could save Dave Aranda's, or really dictate where his career goes. I don't believe that Dave Aranda will let them have a major influence on his decision. But I do believe that they will have an opinion, have the opportunity to give their opinion on whichever offensive coordinator is hired.
You heard our discussion earlier about how do you see it coming out after spring? What order do you see it coming out after spring if you had to hedge your bets on it right now?
Man, that's a great question. And I don't know that the situation that we saw unfold at the end of the year with Jacob Zeno, I mean, we finally saw a backup quarterback to Charlie. And that, I don't want to say it surprised me that they made a switch. Obviously, Charlie got dinged up and Jacob went in. But, I don't want to say, let's take the Larry Fedora approach and not watch film. But I think that whichever offensive coordinator that comes in, like, that's going to dictate what kind of skill set does this offensive coordinator want? What are they going to be able to do on the field? What are they going to ask the quarterback to do? Because it can change. I mean, you look at Gary Bohannon. I mean, depending on who they bring in, they might want a guy that's primarily a runner that doesn't have to make a lot of, on-field decisions with what they're doing. And you talk about players, not plays. Maybe that's a great fit. But then you look at Jacob Zeno and his tools and kind of what he's shown us, his potential. He hasn't shown it consistently, but he has all the tools of a great quarterback and not necessarily a great athlete. But, maybe it's Blake Shapen. I know that there's a lot of people that are high on a baseball player. He has a quick release. USC was a program that recruited him, Graham Harrell, kind of in that air raid system. So if Dave Aranda chooses to go that route, maybe that's the best option. I think it's going to really depend on who is hired and then how do each one of those guys fit in, because each one of them are unique in their own way.
Colt, we got to go, but I want to have one more question for you. Do you feel like the offensive coordinator would have been on a staff where Dave Aranda was at one point, whether it's Utah State, Wisconsin, hell, let's even say Delta State or possibly LSU?
I mean, at this point, you look at all of his hires on his staff, very few of them were not already connected on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, there was none. George Munoz was a hire of his, coming in as a receivers coach and passing game coordinator. So he's had that. So I don't want to dismiss it completely. I think it's going to trend that way, and maybe they're out of left field. We didn't expect them, but I think there's going to be at some point a connection. He talked to someone that he trusts and that they crossed paths, 10 years ago or 5 years ago. I think that will be part of the equation in this hire. And again, I don't know who it's going to be. They kept the lid on this pretty tight, but the way that he's trended with hiring his staff, I wouldn't be surprised at all if it was someone that he has a connection with.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time. Merry Christmas. That's
Thanks,
Colt
guys.
Barber, SicEm365.com. We have a lot of people that wear a lot of different hats, and Colt wears a numerous amount, as does Paul and many others as well. All right, when we come back, today Dwayne Haskins was let go, flat out released, less than 2 years after being the 15th overall pick in the NFL draft by the Redskins Washington Football Club team. The Redskins are a nightmare when it comes to their quarterbacks. They had RG3, that blew up, the knee injury, and eventually did not progress. Kirk Cousins was pretty good. He's now going to end up being a 12, 15-year pro, put up a lot of numbers now with Minnesota, and they let him walk. They traded for Alex Smith. That really ended up being like a pretty good trade, although I didn't like what they gave up. And then he has this horrific injury. He comes back from the football dead, and he gets hurt again. They had a guy from Old Dominion playing for them yesterday because Dwayne Haskins is a mess in many ways. Ryan Leaf said he saw some red flags about Dwayne Haskins earlier this year. He's next on SicEm365 Radio. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be. PettyClinicLowT.com. There's like 2 or 3 steps to this. One, if you have any of these symptoms, lethargic, energy issues, you sleep poorly, you toss and turn, oh my goodness, so many things that go wrong, and including whatever you're having problems when it comes to your sex drive, ED, or more. And as you get older, things like this can happen to you. Not everybody, 1 out of every 3 men have some of those symptoms. Some have all of them. And so Dr. Kent Petty's trying to help you become the high-performance man you want to be. So you contact him, PettyClinicLowT.com, PettyClinicLowT.com. Call him. There's a number on the site, or you can contact him through the site and tell him Smokey sent you. And then he'll set you up. Their staff will set you up to get blood work. Tell him we sent you and get discounted blood work, lab work, your blood levels, whatever they might be when it comes to even your PSA count, cholesterol, but testosterone. If it's too low, Dr. Petty can help you get in a program to raise your testosterone levels so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be and everybody else around you wants you to be. It's very simple. Get online, PettyClinicLowT.com. You know if you have some of those, I guess you could say, symptoms. You know, and there's nothing wrong with it admitting them. And so let Dr. Kent Petty help you out, become the high-performance man you want to be at PettyClinicLowT.com.
With your Ram truck from Allen Samuels, you may not have to plow through snow and mud or pull heavy loads, but you could. During the Big Finish year-end event, you get a Ram deal like no other. Employee pricing for all, 0% for 84, and no payments for 90 days. Ram 1500 Lone Star for Christmas. No other truck comes close. And ask about Big Finish pricing on Ram Heavy Duty and Ram ProMaster for your business. Happy holidays from Alan Samuels.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of health care while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of health care has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your home for holiday favorites for parties and the time with family. Various specials available in-store and online. A variety of steak gift boxes with 4 ribeyes for $70, 4 bacon wrap fillets for $55, or 4 New York strips for $50, and all come with steak butter. Fall snack box for watching a game or wrapping presents or hosting people at your house, including summer sausage, split horn, and jalapeno cheese and salted crackers for only $35. 2 pieces of lobster tails with herb butter and 2 bacon wrap fillets for $60. Order online or call in advance to ensure availability, or drop by Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive. Waco Custom Marketplace has a full-service butcher shop for customized orders or cuts of your favorite steaks or beef tenderloin or specially ordered prime rib roast. Plus, what you want with pork, poultry, seafood, and more. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio. Are you a SicEm365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at SicEm365.com.
All right, here we go. This 3 o'clock hour, thanks to Colt Barber on Baylor's search for an offensive coordinator. We'll hear Shannon Hall from Summit High School in Mansfield, the quarterfinals in Class 5A in the next segment. We're now joined by former NFL quarterback broadcaster Ryan Leaf. Joins us on SicEm365 Radio, Paul Catalina, David Smoak. We've had Ryan on many times at Radio Row, at the Super Bowl, and an incredible story about his life as well. And Ryan joins us again on SicEm365 Radio. Brian, I could be wrong, but I mentioned this to you in either a call or a tweet when I was trying to line you up for today. And first of all, thanks for being a part of the show. Did you kind of see some red flags at all at some point with Dwayne Haskins?
No, I don't necessarily think that anybody saw it. I mean, the poor play on the field and then some of the decision making off it, right? I mean, choices are what define you when you get to that level because the microscope is so narrowly focused. So this year with everything that went on, losing his job, doing what he did in terms of COVID, those are things that are red flags. But there wasn't anything, I think, that you saw him coming out of college, where he got drafted, anything like that. It's something that plays a part as it goes and how you deal with it, and behaviors that become more present as they're exposed.
Would you say that pressure got to him, or is it and maybe exposed a maturity issue that he has?
Well, I think pressure is always an issue, right? It's always going to be. I don't think anybody realizes what kind of pressure that actually is exerted when you become the face of a franchise as a franchise quarterback. Now, having said that, I don't think for any moment that it should ever be an excuse because, we choose this. I don't ever want to hear anybody complain about how tough the pressure or stress is when we get to play a child's game and get paid large sums of money to do it. So that can never be an excuse. It is there. You just have to be able to, take it in and deal with it in a healthy, positive way. And hey, I mean, there's a handful of guys in the history of the NFL that have been able to do that and be super successful at it.
Can you try to explain? You mentioned that word pressure, and don't hear that, but can you try to explain is it a burden that you feel being a high draft pick? It's something that some people thrive on. Can it become a burden?
Well, I think there's expectations that exist. When I was drafted, I wanted to be the most successful quarterback I could. I wanted to be the best that ever played. Dwayne wanted the same thing, right? Mentally, some people are just better equipped to deal with it in a healthy, positive way. And that's just the truth. That's why every quarterback that's drafted in the first round isn't necessarily a success, right? It takes a special kind of human being. And that's why I'm so amazed when I see guys succeed and become stars in that league, because I know how difficult it is. You can't look at a person and think, how could he possibly, give up something that, do all these things that made it go so wrong. It's life. It doesn't matter if you're a starting quarterback in the NFL or, a doctor or a lawyer or anybody. If you're pumping gas at the gas station, life's hard. And it's not fair. It's all about how you deal with it, period. How you deal with it is what makes you a success. And there are tons of examples, me included, of individuals who just did not deal with life on life's terms. And at the NFL level, there's consequences to that. You're out on your butt pretty quick. That's just the way it goes. At that point, then it's about what you decide to do with it the rest of your life. I let it spiral me out of control to a point where I was, where I wake up on a prison cell floor, right? So we don't ever want that to be the case for anybody else. You have to make a choice. You have to look in the mirror and go, okay, I need help, and accept that help, whatever that looks like.
For Dwayne Haskins, to me, it looks, and this is completely outside looking in, but it did look like he lost the locker room as well and the rest of his team. How easy is that to do, especially in a year like this where everyone else is living under these rules of you can't go here and you can't do that, you can't see your kids, you can't do this. And then on a Monday night after a loss, when she played terribly, he's at a strip club having a big old time.
No, it's a terrible offense, right? Of course you lose the locker room. It happened for me. We had leaders like Rodney Harrison and Junior Seau in that locker room, and they wanted me to walk behind them. They wanted to guide me, and I chose not to. And that's a choice. That simply is a choice. Everybody, every human being comes to a fork in the road, regardless of what it is, and you have a choice to deal with it in a healthy, positive way or a negative and toxic one. And sometimes an elite athlete who has been compromised in that. The ego is been shattered. You were supposed to be the savior of a team. You haven't lived up to expectations. People are critical of you. You feel like the victim. You just simply act on impulse, right? You do what you want. No one's going to tell me what to do. I am the franchise. I threw 50 touchdowns in college. I was a top 15 draft pick. All of those things play a part. The mental brain chemistry is something that you don't understand. And you also think it's a sign of weakness if you actually look at somebody and say, hey, I'm struggling here. Can you help me? Instead of doing that, he just did what made him feel better for a limited time, right? It didn't make him feel better for long. Maybe it made him feel better for a couple hours. But that's the impulse control that exists for a lot of elite athletes that have been propped up on a pedestal for most of their lives.
Would you like to sit down and visit with him? And if you were asked to do that, what would you tell him? Maybe none of our business.
Well, of course. And I've reached out, his agent's my former agent, Dave Dunn, with Athletes First. So I've reached out to Dave and I told him that I'm here for him and for Dwayne if they ever need it. But it's entirely up to them in that role. And the biggest thing I say in those moments is like, hey, there's got to be some surrender and acceptance here. Like, your way doesn't work. You've proven that. So let's try a different angle. It took me just to be beat over the head a million times before I figured it out. And luckily I'm still here to be the man that I am now. But some people just have to be humbled in a way that, no one else can comprehend. And it's a sad state of affairs that that's the case. But that's exactly what I'd say. Hey, your way doesn't work. This is a way that can. If you're willing to accept that and surrender to it, I think at 23 years old, you could have a very successful career at doing what you love to do and what you've loved to do since you were, 4 years old. But it's entirely up to you at this point.
Ryan Leaf with us here on SicEm365 Radio. Ryan, I would be remiss, as I am also part of the Believe Podcast Network. I do believe in the Cowboys with Orlando Scandrick. You do believe in the Pac-12, to not mention that as we tease your appearance here. You're starting to broadcast games and see young quarterbacks. When you see those young quarterbacks, do you ever see red flags or things like do you notice like, oh, this is a little bit like I did, or do you see, man, this guy, he's got the mental makeup that maybe some guys don't have?
It's hard to see it in college because most of the guys we're talking about are uber successful in college, right? I think you could make an argument that you could see it with Johnny Manziel just because of the stardom that happened and the suspension early in his final year there, and the conversations around him and the things he did off the field there in College Station. So I think that may be one of them, but it's rare. Like, if you were really successful in college, it's rare. Scouts have to, player personnel guys have to be able to talk to people on campus, see how they treated people, let's say in the equipment room, the tutors, people on campus, things like that. Those are important factors. But when everything is going so well, it's rare that there's a quarterback, especially at the collegiate level, that their team doesn't have a lot of success, that is considered a top draft pick. It doesn't play out that way. So when it does happen at the pro level, I think a lot of people are taken aback. And then they always go back and in retrospect go, oh, we should have saw this, we should have saw that, we should have saw this. That's all fine and dandy when you're able to do that from, 10,000 feet, 5 years later. But in the moment, you don't see that. You expect good things. When they drafted Dwayne, they expected good things. I know a lot of conversations come up that the ownership was really involved in that decision. And I dislike it greatly that coaches and people within the organization are saying, well, that's not what we wanted. Come on. You're all in on what you're going to get. You wanted him to be successful. You drafted him. It didn't work out. Let's move on. Luckily, because of the rookie salary cap, it doesn't decapitate a team anymore like it did back in my day. When the Chargers drafted me, it really put them in a bind for quite a few years because they invested so highly in me in terms of money, draft picks, and cap value. Now you can miss on a guy in the first round. Clearly, we've seen with Josh Rosen and now with Dwayne Haskins, and still get better as a team if you need to be.
Ryan, you have obviously told your story many times. You alluded to it earlier. 8 years ago, April 1st, I think it was, is when you said you woke up on a prison floor. I've looked at your timeline as I reached out to you earlier today. How does it make you feel that people now reach out to you, appreciate your story, appreciate your transparency and your honesty?
Well, I think it's validating. I mean, what other people think of me is none of my business, and that was a problem for a long time. But I do think it's validating because, when you go out and speak and you're vulnerable and transparent like this, it takes a toll, an emotional toll. And, you don't like to talk about all the bad things that happened in your life. But when it effectively changes people's lives, where they make a change to be a better person, that might be the most validating thing there is. And years removed from all this, I'm going to be able to say, and I'm feeling this way now, I doubt I would have been as impactful as a human being if I had been a great football player and, won a couple Super Bowls and rode off into the sunset. I just really don't think that would have been the case. The relatability to somebody who was a flawed human being like everybody else, I think is what makes it so special. And, it doesn't cost me anything to be self-deprecating. I know what I am. I know who I am. I'm okay with it. But it helps others. It helps others know that we're all the same. We're all going through the same thing. And in a year like 2020, isn't that the best possible version of yourself you could be? To be that person out there and understand that we are all struggling and life is hard and it's difficult and it's not fair, but it's how we choose to come together and get through something. And as a former NFL player, and there are only about 27,000 of us ever, when something like this happens, you find out a lot about the people who are around you. When you're high, when you're drafted 15th or you're drafted second overall, to when you're released and let go and people are calling you a bust. You see the rats scatter from the ship pretty quick, and you find out who your true friends are. And I hope Dwayne finds out who his true friends are, and he knows that I am one of them. We are NFL brotherhood. There are a limited amount of us, and I know what he's going through, and I don't ever want him to be as miserable as I once was, because of what I allowed other people to influence what I thought about myself. So I'm here for him. I know there's a bunch of former players out there that are there for him, and I want to see him be a success.
I just saw Robert Griffin III, who, of course, had early success, and then it just all beat up because of the injuries and elsewhere. He just said, hey, you're only 23, man. Good luck, kid. And you never know. Everything helps. And, Ryan, I remember when you started to surface at Radio Row, and I bet there were probably some that said, why do I want to talk to him? Now you can't. It's hard to book you, and the fact you called me back as quickly as you did today says a lot about you. Glad we have that relationship that started at the Super Bowl. Appreciate your word, your journey, and also your transparency. And take care.
Oh, I appreciate it, and best of luck to you. You guys have a great rest of the week. Happy holidays.
You too. That's Ryan Leaf, Ryan D. Leaf on Twitter. You can learn something by following him. Hope you learned something a little bit about what he thought, red flags with Dwayne Haskins or not, whatever they were, as he now moves on. Who knows? Somebody picks him up, and maybe in a year or two, the right type of fit. It's not like the Redskins have been really good with quarterbacks that they've drafted. In fact, I can't remember. The RG3 was spectacular his rookie year.
Sustained
Cousins
success.
was a pro.
Sustained success that they drafted has to be Theismann.
What about the guy from Tennessee they drafted?
Heath Schuler.
Heath Schuler.
Congressman Heath Schuler at one time, yeah.
And there's some that, again, I don't know how much further Dwayne Haskins would have gone down the board had Washington not picked him. And we really don't know the truth. Well, Daniel Snyder, that's who I want. He's a Maryland kid or whatever. We don't always know. Just like Jerry with Johnny Manziel, we really don't know the truth. Sometimes we take stories and they get bigger and bigger and we run with them.
The difference between that is that Jerry had Steven, whose word he respects, that says, no, let's draft this kid who's going to be a Hall of Fame guard.
Yeah.
And nobody has that relationship to Daniel Snyder.
So good luck to Dwayne Haskins. I'm a lifelong Washington fan. Everyone knows that. It is another failure. And that's why they are who they are. And the fact that a kid from Old Dominion had to come in and help them, at least give them a chance. Matt Rule, the big win yesterday, he said the reason they went out and won the game is, one, that's what you're supposed to do. Also, someone asked him today at his press conference, Matt Rule, what about the better draft pick? He said, we as a franchise need to learn how to win games in December no matter when they are. And that's pretty cool. That was pretty cool. He's had a tough year. They're 5-10. Maybe they're 5-11, 6-10. Who knows? Little pieces that you can see him putting together.
Who you draft matters, but also who's drafting them matters.
That's right. That's
so some people can win constantly with the 25th pick in the draft. Some people can't win constantly with the first pick in the draft. The Browns are now finally good and still may not make the playoffs because they picked the wrong guy, number one, a bunch of times.
He was asked this question. He started his availability talking about winning in December. He wanted to give us a complete football answer. He spoke to the team about it. I really believe it's a skill to win late in the year. It's also, to me, it's about discipline, that you're still grinding at the end of the year. Cowboys are grinding. They absolutely, everybody gave up on them. Everybody did. Except maybe one person that I know. And I was being flippant when I said, no, you watch, they'll win the division. When we come back, Shannon Hall, Summit High School in Mansfield. 7-4 coming off a win against Colleyville Heritage. They're in the quarterfinals. The former Shoemaker coach. He's next on SicEm365 Radio. What do we have here, Paul? Ideal MRI. IdealMRI.com. The title sponsor of this show. And they can help you. Well, first, they have this incredible place. It's over in the Central Texas Marketplace, just off at 35 and 340 in Waco. Their business inside the Central Texas Marketplace, they have an MRI machine that's state-of-the-art technology that can take whatever picture of whatever you need that's inside of your body that hurts, as well as anything else you could imagine. I've been there. I've done that. I've had the MRI back in March on my left shoulder, and it was an amazing experience. MRIs can be a little bit spooky if you're kind of claustrophobic in any way. You don't like to get into that tunnel. The experience was amazing. It was easy. Obviously, they set up the appointment for me. I show up. I do the paperwork. Everything's done pretty much before you get there. The Texan specialists sit down with me, tell me what I expect. I've been in some MRI machines before, and it was flawless. And then later on that evening, and not too long after, I get a phone call from Dr. Rob Maxey telling me what they had seen on the MRI and exactly what we thought it would be. He then said, here's a copy. Send it to your doctor, Dr. Haynes at Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Yeah, that's what it is. And the picture was unbelievable. Dr. Haynes said, thank you very much. And then he talked to me about, okay, how can I strengthen my left shoulder? Ideal MRI, also the bottom line is this as well. First of all, technology fantastic. Doctors, specialists, great. $497 or less every single time you get an MRI. $497 or less when the average MRI is $1,100. You're going to save a ton of money at IdealMRI.com.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
Don Humidor, you're home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
What you do in privacy is your own business. What you do in public with your truck, well, that's our business at Pickup Outfitters. In your garage, it's okay for your truck to parade around in the nude with no accessories. Hey, this is still America. But when you bring your truck out in public, it's just common decency to put an outfit on your truck. And that's where we come in at Pickup Outfitters. Put a cover on that bed. Cover your rear end with a bumper and a hitch, for goodness sakes. There are women and children on the roads. And guys, don't leave your tools exposed. Put them in a toolbox. Be proud of your truck and stand tall with a lift kit. Or improve your truck's posture with a leveling kit. Add some class to your pickup with new wheels and tires. Or dress up for a date with your new RV or boat with a fifth wheel or a receiver hitch. At Pickup Outfitters, we're dedicating to making the roads decent for all Central Texans. So when taking your truck out in public, remember your manners and accessorize it properly with an outfit from Pickup Outfitters. 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Texas Board Certified Personal Injury Trial Lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recalled drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com, principal office in Houston, Texas.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Welcome back to SicEm 365 Radio. This high school football segment is sponsored by Southwest Sports Medicine. We'll get you back in the game.
All right, the quarterfinal round in Class 6A and 5A, the 4As and below, of course, in the private schools, their state championships were decided a couple of weeks ago. And now it's amazing, 5A and 6A playing through Christmas and now New Year's, and in fact, possibly into the early part of the new year. We're joined by Shannon Hall, head football coach at Summit High School in Mansfield, and what a great story they are. And he is a builder of programs. Shannon, thanks for your time. How much fun has this season been for you?
Oh, it's been awesome, man. Just to see kids' success, it's been truly awesome with everything going on. And first and foremost, we just glad to be playing football like everybody else. And when they told us we could strap it up, man, our kids were fired up and ready to go. And my staff was as well. So we're fired up.
Did you ever think in your wildest dreams that you'd be coaching New Year, a practice on New Year's Eve?
Now, this is a little different on New Year's Eve. You know, in the high school where you always think about and dream about, you know, playing on Christmas, but New Year's is a different element. But, you know, hey, we're excited, grateful, and blessed to be in this situation.
Yeah, and it's been another, this is just Shannon Hall special, isn't it? What you did at Shoemaker, you built a program that didn't know how to win and couldn't win into one that made the playoffs. Summit's had a history where they've been pretty good, but they've been up and down. What did you see in them and have been able to accomplish what you want yet to date?
Well, you know, when you have a great school district, great administration from the top down, and people want you to be successful, and you got kids that are bought in, you're always going to have an opportunity, I believe. And that's what we have here at Summit High School, and man, we're just fired up for the opportunity. And like I said, you have to take advantage of the opportunity. You don't get a lot of them, so it's our time to take advantage of it.
When did you know this team had a spark to it that could make a run?
Yeah, well, that's what we've been working for. You know, it's hard to not say, you know, when you put in the work. I got a great staff, and you know, when you put in the work like you do, and you love the kids the way that we do, and my coaches and everybody around wants our kids to be successful. So that's what you work for. So no matter what that looks like, success is always determined in different ways. But you want kids to be successful, and you want to let them know the sky's the limit if they put in the work. And that's what we do at Summit High School.
You know, you're playing a team that is in this round as well in Red Oak because somebody missed an extra point in a crushing loss, a win for them in a game that went double overtime. And they've been kind of a, if you want to use that term, I'm not sure if you want to or not, kind of a Cinderella. Is that kind of interesting that the two of you are maybe there and not many people expected you to be there?
You know, that's fine. I mean, in my brain, I thought, you know, they were one of the top teams in our district. I thought we had the toughest district in the state. So, you know, in our brain, we figured we'd have to meet up with district opponents again to do what we wanted to do. And so there's no surprises. I mean, they're a good football team. They're well coached. You know, they play hard. They got a lot of athletes on the field. So it's no surprise to me at all, man. They beat us once. So we got to put our best foot forward and then give ourselves a chance to win on Friday.
Who has the advantage when you've met before? Is it the team that won because they feel confident or the team that lost because of, well, motivation?
I don't know if it's advantage, disadvantage. All I know is it's round 4. There's not a lot of teams left in the state playing football, and Red Oak and Summit High School are 2 playing, and I feel like everybody's going to put all their cards on the table, and everybody's going to be ready to play.
Is there any comparison to what you've done at Summit to what you did at Shoemaker?
I mean, it's 2 different. I think it's 2 different situations. I think at Shoemaker, I think they had a lot of talent, always have talent there. And I was able to bring some guys in and create a staff that was just all about changing it around, And the thing about Shoemaker, we just had so much buy-in. Once we got to level on those kids, we had so much buy-in, and that you knew something good was going to happen because those kids would run through a wall for us. Here at Summit, they've had tradition. They've done some winning. They've had good coaches. So you really want to rebuild the whole thing. You were just trying to keep some moving and get some consistency going, and different things like that. So we were able to go as far as the team's ever been, and now we made some history with nobody's gone this far. So that's special within itself, being that the area that we're in is so, they're so successful all the time. Everybody in the area, you got teams in the same district that's been the state, made those runs. So, it was in the air around there, and you just want to be a part of it and be around good people and compete at the highest level. So it's just kind of different. I don't even know how to put it in words. But
right.
It's just been totally different.
Well, and you had that run your second year there when you lost to Highland Park. You were in the 3rd round. You had an 8-5 team. And you're one of those, even though it'd be great to be 11-0 or 12-0 or 13-0, you play good people, so you get to find out who you are. Of course, you played Ennis. You played a couple of other schools that are obviously, you mentioned your district. Right. So this is only, you kind of find yourself out of it. Sometimes people just want to keep winning, and that's the smart thing. But you got to play some people early on to find out who you're going to be later on, correct?
Right. There's no question about it. Everybody says iron sharpens iron. So we're never going to run away from anybody. We're very strategic in who we play to make sure we can know we need to work on somebody that's going to, expose us a little bit so we can get better and play our best ball at this time. Because, again, the bottom line is playing your best ball at this time. And I think we're on the way to doing that.
Shannon, it's great to see what you're doing. It was amazing what you did at Shoemaker. Toby Foreman's trying to continue that tradition. Of course, after you left, you set the table for them after you built it, after you put the buffet on the table. Congratulations. And good luck this week against Red Oak. It is great to hear from you again.
I appreciate it. Always good talking to you.
You too. That's Shannon Hall at Summit High School. What he did at Shoemaker, remember now, they were like in a winless streak. What was it titled? Like 40-something games in a row. It was awful. And then they won. And then they won. And then they made the playoffs. They were a team that beat a great Midway team one year, 7-3, and a fumble return for a touchdown. And now he goes to Summit. First year, 4-6, 8-5. They lost to Highland Park, won a state championship that year. Highland Park, they won a chunk of them. 5-4, 7-4, and now 7-4. They've had a couple of games that got wiped out because of COVID, but here they are. They play Red Oak. On the other side of that region, Highland Park and Denton Ryan in a mega showdown, 2 undefeated teams, and the winner of Red Oak and Summit will play the winner of Ryan, who just beat Longview, and Highland Park, who beat Lone Star. Coming up next, the sad story, the loss of Mark Lumley, the former longtime assistant at Baylor, a former player, reflects back on his role and how he helped shape her life as well. SicEm365 Radio. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. In fact, I get to see Ted Teague sometime tomorrow. It's time to look at next year. And they're closing out this year. And they have, right now, there's like a trifecta of things you can get when you buy a vehicle at Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram. Employee pricing for almost every new vehicle. Nearly every vehicle has 0% financing, whether it's for 60, 72, or 84 months. And then on top of that, there are other incentives, no payments for 90 days. That's on, of course, the Ram truck, back-to-back-to-back Motor Trend Truck of the Year. 3 years. Talk about trifecta. Back-to-back-to-back Motor Trend Truck of the Year, the Ram truck at Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram. Also, and Fiat. There's also opportunities for SUVs and regular sedans as well. If you want, And that includes what they have with the various styles and brands of Jeep. Employee pricing for all on most all new vehicles. And on top of that, 0% financing, 60, 72, 84 months. And even on top of that, you also get much more incentives. Just ask for them. Go by there. AJ's the one that sold me I got a Christmas card from AJ. He's the one. I bought a car from him. He's never stopped reminding me about things that I still need to have done for the car that I bought from him. I went through that process. It was amazing. And he's the kind of sales rep that even after you sign the dotted line and drive off the lot, he's still in touch with you. But that's what they're taught there at Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Bird Culchin Ford has been in Waco since 1936. Ford, the #1 selling truck in Texas, 43 years running. And Bird Culchin Ford proudly supports high school football in Central Texas. And no better way to tailgate with a Ford than from Bird Culchin Ford. And are there better vehicles to tailgate with than the Ford F-150 or the Ford Expedition? And of course, you can get them new pre-owned Bird Culchin Ford. Our sponsor of the Ford Tough Player of the Week, locally owned dealership. Online at bkford.com at 1701 West Loop 340 in Waco. Bird Culchin Ford.
The holidays are here, and I have a simple question for you. Will you weigh as much more or less than you do right now when the holidays are over? Why not end the year in better shape than when you started and create momentum for 2021? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness has numerous options for stocking stuffer gifts with gift cards for gym or tennis membership, fitness merchandise, tanning, massage, tennis lessons, and personal training. Perhaps a gift for a client, a family member, or a friend. You just need to walk through the front door to change your life. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes, including twice-a-week boot camp. Spacious, clean workout room, free weights, Cybex cardio equipment, and no intimidation. A tremendous camaraderie and family atmosphere. So get the best and healthiest Christmas gift you can for someone or yourself. It's time to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
Learning to navigate life in the COVID-19 world has been a struggle, and where and how to get tested has been one of the biggest challenges. Impact Health Labs has your answer. If you need mass testing for your office, church, dormitory, or school, Impact Health Labs is who to call. They will come to you, conduct the testing at your location, and have the test back within 24 hours. Most major insurance accepted, meaning your out-of-pocket cost is low. So no more waiting by the phone for days to find out the results. Impact Health Labs was founded by 3 Army licensed and credentialed medical professionals. They believe in accuracy, efficiency, and doing the job right. Call 254-744-6233 to set up your group screening today. Impact Health Labs, on-site, prompt, and accurate, taking COVID-19 head-on. Again, that number is 254-744-6233 or online at impacthealthlabs.com.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Catch is made by Amari Cooper, who broke free. Inside the 20, stays in bounds, and is wrestled out at the Eagles' 8-yard line.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on SicEm365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, located at the Imperial Drive exit off Loop 340 in Waco. Proud supporters of all Baylor Athletics. Here's David Smoak and Paul Catalina.
All right, here we go. SicEm365 Radio. We are on until 6 o'clock. We had a loaded first hour with Colt Barber on the Baylor coaching search on the offensive side of the staff, thanks to Ryan Leaf and his story, of course, also on the Redskins releasing Dwayne Haskins. It's the first time ever since 2000, by the way, that an NFL team has released a first-round pick before year two. There have been like four other teams that released a first-round quarterback by at the end of third year. Washington, the first one, before even the second year's out with Dwayne Haskins, and good luck with him, and also Shannon Hall Summit. We're now, over the weekend, we heard about the story and the passing of Mark Lumley, the longtime Baylor assistant softball coach under Glenn Moore, and how it hit the Baylor community, among many, many others. Jenny Isham-Fuller, who's now a coach up in South Dakota, joins us. Paul Catalina has known Jenny for a long, long time. She joins us on SicEm365 Radio. Jenny, thanks for your time under some tough circumstances. Everyone knew that Mark had been struggling, and he actually released himself from on staff back in part of this year. Your thoughts about what Mark Lumley meant to you?
Gosh, I mean, it's tough on where to start. You know, he's not only meant a lot to me, but to a lot of people across the country. And he and really the whole Baylor coaching staff have been really instrumental in helping me get to where I'm at right now, being a head coach at the Division II level. And, you know, as soon as I got into coaching, Coach Lumley, he sent me a huge packet on, you know, what the Baylor softball program does. And so just for me personally, he's been instrumental in my success. And, you know, I think there's a lot of people out there like that.
I don't know if I've ever come across a coach who has a bigger heart than Coach Lumley did. He really, I mean, every player that seemed to come through there, even if they clash with him at times, seems to have a special place in their heart for him.
Oh, definitely. You know, he was a jokester as a coach, but he was intense and competitive at the same time. But, you know, he really, I think what sets him apart as a coach and the Baylor's coaching staff is, you know, he treated, or they all do this, but he treats players with respect. And, you know, as far as my playing career goes, I was a mediocre player, but he treated me like an All-American. And really the whole staff did. And ever since I graduated, you know, it's almost like I've still been a part of that family. And, you know, that's how he treated everybody, was just with respect.
You know, it obviously has been a hard year for him and for everyone that knew Coach as well. And there were some things that were even accusations that were just out of nowhere and very random. Did you talk to him at all? Did you get a chance to visit with him much at all this year?
I haven't spoken to him much this year. I had reached out a couple times earlier, like I think back in last January, and through text, but I hadn't talked to him since all of that happened. I have reached out to Coach Moore a few times, but definitely I know his character and the whole Baylor coaching staff character, and all those accusations were not, you know, true representations of who they were. But, you know, to go back to who they are as people, last year they had my husband, who is my assistant coach. You know, he went down to Waco for some to visit family, and they invited him to a practice out there. So, you know, last year Brad luckily got to see my husband. He got to see Coach Lumley, and you know, I think again that just goes back to who they are as people and how welcoming they are. And I'm just lucky to have had Coach Lumley in my life.
Yeah, you mentioned how funny he was. That was the first thing that ever struck me about him, was he was a funny dude. And, and it was he's kind of the perfect balance for Coach Moore, who I'm not going to, like, Coach Moore is, I'm just saying, he's not what you call funny. He's a great guy, but I mean, he's not Milton Berle. He's not cracking jokes. Yeah. But the balance out, what was that relationship? Was it just the balance of the two of them?
Yeah, I would definitely say it was a balance. I remember definitely Coach Moore is the serious one, kind of dry sometimes. And then Coach Lumley, he would be the one that would dress up in funny outfits and come to practice just to try and lighten the mood and dance around. And then I have a quick story on him being a jokester. He, when I was a junior, he kind of played a joke on me, and he asked me to find the keys to the batter's box. And I fell for it. And I mean, which is embarrassing because I was a junior in college, But yeah, so he would just do random stuff like that, and it definitely it lightened the mood and it made us all laugh, which I think helped us to play well together. And yeah, I think the balance as a coaching staff is super important. Now that I'm in coaching, I see how important it is to do stuff like that and to be serious and fun at the same time. So,
did you think he meant the batting cages?
You know what? I really have no idea. I just know I was asking people, walking around, asking people where the keys to the batter's box were. So yeah, kind of embarrassing, but what can you do?
Who's the one that finally broke the news to you? That
I don't know if anybody ever did. I just had to figure it out on my own.
Oh my goodness!
Those don't exist. So
there's a thread on SicEm365.com, which is the mothership of what we do with the radio show.
Yeah.
And the responses from former players, people that knew him, people that had been been touched by what he did, as a coach, as a person, as a friend. It's pretty remarkable. It really is.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he was just so well respected across the country. I mean, you have the Florida coach, the Washington coach, they're all reaching out on social media, and not every coach can reach people like that. And I think it was just because of who he was. He was loving and funny, but super competitive at the same time.
By the way, Glenn Moore just sent a text. I'm funny.
He has his moments that,
Yeah.
But yeah, whenever you're running and he's trying to tell a joke, it's not so funny. So.
Oh my goodness.
Well, he's the boss. Yeah. Like the boss.
Yeah, I know.
The boss, and this as the head coach. You have to pick your spots to be funny, and then that's what the assistant coach is supposed to do.
Yeah.
Is the assistant coach, because if the boss is funny all the time, then sometimes you're like, whatever. I'll run later.
Exactly. And I know. And I'm probably actually more like Coach Moore, and then my husband is probably more like Coach Lumley on the staff. So we, I think it's just something that we learn from them.
There have been so many former players that no matter whatever sport, and we've interviewed what seems like almost hundreds of them now, but there is something that to be said. It doesn't mean every single coaching staff, not every single player's career or time at Baylor has always worked out or been great, but it is amazing when you think about what former basketball or current players say about Scott Drew, Coach Tang, and others, and then the same thing about what they said about Glenn Moore and Mark Lumley, or even, not always initially when some of the former players left when they didn't quite know Kim Mulkey, but now. But it's amazing to me how many people leave that university and what they say about it when they leave, and also 5, 8, 10, 12 years later as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing is that when you're that age and you're playing for a coach, sometimes you don't really understand what they're trying to do. But what all coaches, all of the good ones out there try to do at least, or they want to prepare you for life. And I think that, that's kind of what Baylor athletics is all about, is preparing you for life. And they're all about family. And it's not just about what you can do on the field or on the court. It's really like what you do once you graduate, once you get your degree. And and they really help you in being successful after you leave.
Yeah, it's interesting, and this was something that, unfortunately, the news today was just something about reality. He had been struggling, and he's in a better place, right? I mean, he's in a better place, a much better place.
Yeah, definitely, and he lived a faith-filled life, and definitely I think knowing he's not in pain anymore and doesn't have to struggle, I think is a relief, for his family and friends. And, he's watching us from up above in the best seats in the house.
So I was told that you used to do a boot camp.
Oh, a boot camp at when we played?
No, that you used to have that Tuesday morning, Thursday morning boot camp.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes, I did used to do that back in. Gosh, it's been a while, but yeah, I did do boot camp. But what about it?
Well, Paul, you did it for a while, right?
Yeah, I did. I need to go back desperately. It's not easy.
Now I'm into. I do CrossFit now.
What do you remember most about boot camp? What do you remember about the tone and also the person who ran it?
Who was the person that ran it?
Ooh. Christy London?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember her name. It's been a while since I've been in Waco, but I remember she was pretty hardcore about it. That's what and the workouts were really hard.
Yeah, it's every Tuesday and Thursday. They're one of our sponsors of SicEm365 Radio.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
At Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness. But yeah, there's no doubt about it. That was something that Paul knows. I didn't go to it very often. Believe me, it was not very smart for me to be there. Hey, Coach Moore says he's funny and also appreciates you reflecting back on the life and times of coach and friend in Mark Lumley. We wish you the best. Tell everybody where you are now.
Yeah, so right now, so as soon as I graduated from Baylor, I got into the coaching world. And right now I'm currently the head coach at Northern State University in Aberdeen, South Dakota. It's a Division II. Just kind of somehow ended up here, and it's a great spot, and we love it. My husband is my assistant. And then we have a 3-year-old daughter. So between that and the team, we're pretty busy.
Wow. Well, Jenny, thanks for coming on and answering. It's great to talk to you. For our listeners, you and I go back a long time.
I know.
A long time. Yeah, we go back a long time, and I'm really happy to see you doing so well, even though you're in a place that I would only go to 2 months a year.
The only tough people survive up north is kind of what I'm figuring out.
I'm not. I'm absolutely. I could not take it. Well, I told you when we were on the phone before. Smokey and I were in Minnesota a couple years ago for the Super Bowl, and I thought that frozen hellscape. I would walk down to the lobby into the hotel and be like, "How do you live like this, lady?"
I know. The crazy thing is that I think it gets colder in South Dakota than Minnesota. So,
oh my gosh.
That's all the Baylor workouts and all of that really prepared me for being able to handle adversity in cold weather. We're dealing with it.
The good news is tomorrow the high is 30, the low is 12 in South Dakota, and it will be a 90% chance of snow.
Double digits. Yeah. That's a win.
I mean, actually, that's nice though, because that's pretty nice for this time of year.
My
which is
God.
sad to say, but usually it's about -0 or minus something below 0. So
oh my gosh, yeah.
We're outside in shorts right now.
I'm starting to freeze thinking about it.
You're tougher than me.
Thank you, Jenny. Appreciate your time.
Hey,
Appreciate your.
Thank y'all.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And miss you. Yeah, I miss you all. So thank you.
Great to have you on. The life of Mark Lumley, who passed away, Baylor longtime assistant softball coach under Glenn Moore. I remember I've mentioned this before with Glenn Moore and also Mark Lumley. They took me to lunch early on when I first arrived. Great people, incredible success, World Series appearance. And just an unbelievable run that they have had. And Glenn Moore, of course, remains the softball coach at Baylor. Jenny Isham-Fuller, a former Baylor softball player, on Mark Lumley. This is SicEm365 Radio. Waco Custom Marketplace. You talk about packed. You talk about, I mean, they have been like a sledgehammer with Thanksgiving into Christmas and now New Year's. Last week I talked to Brian Bauer by text, I sent him a couple of text messages about things just to promote what they have for Christmas, whether it's gift boxes that have steaks in them, whether ribeyes or New York strips or bacon wrapped fillets or lobster tails or all of the above, and then the snack gift box as well. And he said, we are slammed. That's music to my ears. That's music to his ears, because that means people are coming in and out, ordering what they have, and they gave their staff a little bit of a time off, as some people do, of course, during Christmas, and now back at work getting ready for whatever you need when it comes to the holidays between now and New Year's and into the next year. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, with a bakery and also a butcher shop. The butcher shop with seafood and pork and poultry, but man, do they have all the beef you could ever want, whether it's just as simple as ground beef or something much more, I guess, fancy when it comes to a rib roast, a prime rib roast. Whether you want one for 3 people or 8 people or for a larger family, they will customize for it, and different selection of beef as well, the choice of beef. And on top of that, if you want a bacon wrap fillet, an order, you want them to make those for you, they'll do it. Ribeyes, if you want bone-in ribeyes and how thick you want the steak, they'll do that as well. It's Waco Custom Marketplace every morning, fresh baked bread and also kolaches inside their bakery. It's butcher shop and bakery, hometown grocery store, Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
And policies out there. It gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. And this football season, you need to stop by on game day for curbside pickup or stop by their tent next to SicEm365 at Brazos Parking for your pregame refreshment. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs, too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Car has the trucks, man. They have the one for you. Crew cab, short or long bed, silver, black or blue. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Carr, he has the truck for you. Carr has the trucks, man. He has the truck you need. If you want the best truck, you want a GMC. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Welcome back to SicEm 365 Radio.
Sims loses the ball. He gets knocked back to the end zone and jumped on by Carolina. The Panthers get there and put points on the board.
The SicEm 365 Radio Live Guest VIP Hotline is sponsored by Stonewood Dental. We are all in this together.
SicEm 365 Radio here on the week after Christmas, joined by my old friend Adam Winkler, who covers the Washington football team from his perch in Norfolk. So you've got a little distance from the smell most days when they have a bad day like yesterday. Dwayne Haskins, Adam, is really, really struggling. And that week that he had last week was as bad of a week with a guy not getting suspended as I think I've ever seen a player have. They're kind of out of options, so they played him. What do they do this week at quarterback if Alex Smith is not healthy?
Well, first of all, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, even if it is about the Washington football team coming off of that loss. You can't play Dwayne Haskins this week. I do not care what the stakes are. I don't care if somebody's job was on the line. You cannot run 7 out there again like you did last week. That was Ron Rivera. If you give him some truth serum, I think he might admit that was the wrong play. You can't come in and preach culture first and completely try and reverse everything that's gone wrong with this putrid franchise for the last quarter century and have your starting quarterback break COVID protocols for the second time and then run out and start him because you can win the division. It was a bad look. It was mixed messaging. It was a bad look not benching him coming out of halftime and giving him one more series against the Panthers. So we just heard from Ron Rivera a short while ago. Alex Smith is slated to be the starting quarterback week 17. If he can't go, it's Taylor Heineke's division to win, Paul. That is the state of this franchise. Dwayne Haskins, once again, has been demoted to an inactive quarterback because of on-field and off-field performance. He's done in Burgundy and Gold.
Well, and yeah, he's done forever. I mean, he's got 2 years left on his rookie deal, but it's not going to really, it's not going to be any skin off their back to just let him go and walk into probably the XFL is his next stop, I would think. He's got to rehabilitate his playing career somewhere else if the NFL is going to give him another shot. But I didn't understand why they didn't just go to Taylor Heineke right after halftime, because it could not have gotten worse than Dwayne Haskins played in that first half.
The poor decision making, there was what led you to believe, watching that first half, what led you to believe that he would find that spark? And talking to Ron, he said the reason he gave him that one drive coming out of halftime is because of what Haskins and the offense did starting the second half, week 15, against Seattle. And that was when he did provide a spark. But as you pointed out, after the week that he had, after the emotional roller coaster that he had been on, and then the terrible performance, you just needed to cut bait at halftime, give it to Taylor Heineke, and we saw what he did. If he finds a way to lead one more drive instead of getting into the red zone and coming up empty again, we could be having a different conversation today, because that game could have gone into overtime. So it was just there was the last chapter of the Dwayne Haskins era, which a lot of folks around here would argue there should have never been a Dwayne Haskins era in Washington.
Well, one of the things, and Adam, I believe you were here in Waco when this was going on at La Vega, but they had a running back named Chris Parr who got in a lot of trouble.
Oh, yeah.
And was suspended for most of the season. And then they got to the state championship game, a game I don't know, they may not have won it with or without him, but Willie Williams made the decision to let him play, and the emotions of that team kind of got gutted. And that happens in high school, it happens in college, and it happens in the pros. When a guy does not follow the rules that everyone else is following, especially in a year like this, it can really infect a team. And I'm really kind of surprised that Ron Rivera made that choice, knowing that, look, he didn't do anything that the rest of the guys were doing. You don't think some of those other guys wanted to go out and get a lap dance or something? I mean, believe me, people are going crazy. Here, Dwayne Haskins is just throwing the rules in their faces, and these are professional men now. They're not kids anymore, and that really angers ball players.
And the thing that's crazy, Ron Rivera is a 58-year-old cancer survivor. Within weeks, he completed his treatment. He is as high risk as they come. And you've also got fathers on the team. You've got guys who can't see their children, can't see their parents because of the protocols, because they are given the privilege, given the opportunity to play in the NFL, and all these adjustments have been made. And yet you've got a second-year quarterback who makes his first start in 2 months, looks terrible doing so, and then decides to go out and celebrate Boo's birthday and puts everybody else at risk. I'm with you. The Ron Rivera that we know and the way he is respected, I am stunned that he ran him out there and didn't just start Taylor Heineke. I think you would have had a lot more respect from that locker room. Not saying he's lost the locker room or anything, but I think you would have had a lot more respect running Heineke out there, benching Haskins, proving a point, and really saying we are doing this culture first.
Well, and now all they had to do was win this week, and the rest of the NFC East is playing, for nothing, at all. They're playing for pride. The Cowboys and Giants is just completely academic, and the Eagles can go in there and, roll out some things and see what Jalen Hurts can do, and that's about it. But now they've created a situation where, especially if the Cowboys win, when the Cowboys and Giants, whoever wins that game is going to be watching, wishing for doom, and they created a tense situation that didn't have to be there.
And obviously hindsight's 2020, but you know the result of that Giants game. The Ravens had won. You knew that you had to go out there and beat Carolina and win the division, and then you could run me out there as the starting quarterback week 17. You could have gotten Alex Smith healthy. You could have had Terry McLaurin healthy. You could have gotten the linebacker crew healed. If you just go out and win that game. And I realize that, Ron Rivera's message is still, we just talked to him a little while ago, still, hey, we still control our own destiny. It all goes through us. But with everything factored in, you get a week to get everybody healthy. You get a week to game plan. That's like gold in the NFL. It's a second bye. And now they're the 256th game, potentially running Taylor Heineke out there to win the division. It's just, it's so NFC East 2020.
Well, and look, the Eagles, while they're eliminated from this thing, have not been playing completely terrible. Now, they, after the first quarter yesterday, I don't really know what that was, and why they changed their game plan that was working to a T, and the Cowboys, of course, rolled over them. But, the Eagles, they've got something, they're kind of playing for pride here too. And to knock another team out in your division also is a dangerous thing to deal with.
And I don't want to read too much into it, but playing the primetime game, playing on Sunday Night Football, that could get a little bit of juice flowing that may have otherwise not been flowing for a meaningless Week 17 game. And the one thing, this Washington team has been so hot and cold this year, but the one consistency is that defense, as good as it's been, it has struggled against mobile quarterbacks. And number 2 in Eagles Green is certainly a mobile quarterback. And you saw that when it was working well yesterday at AT&T Stadium. So it will be interesting to see if this Eagles team causes some problems for Washington. This is, as you said, Jalen Hurts' kind of last chance to go out and show this franchise that he could potentially be the guy to unseat Carson Wentz. It's not going to be a cakewalk. Washington is an underdog now. The longer the uncertainty with Alex Smith goes, I think that number is going to continue to move. Ron Rivera thinks that they're playing with house money. He thinks that, us against the world. They've got nothing to lose because nobody expected them to be in this situation. Well, sure, nobody expected them to be in this situation, but you are in this situation, and the ball is in your court, and you need to find a way to win that game to win the NFC East to make this entire season worth it, or else the Giants or the Cowboys will find a way to host a home playoff game.
Yeah. Well, last thing I'll ask you, all this has gone on. There have been a lot of positives. If you look at the NFC East, for the most part, and it's been a disaster all year. It's the ugliest division ever. But there are a lot of positives for these teams going out the door this season. The Giants look like they've got something to build on. The Cowboys, get them healthy, and they're probably, what they've at least always been. And for the Washington football team, ownership drama, which is only going to get hotter in the offseason, notwithstanding, they had some positives for the first time in a long time. It would really be a shame for them to go out on such a weak note.
And that's, I think that is the best way to sum all this up, is it has been such a haywire year, and there has been, finally some positives to look towards for Washington. Sure, they still have major quarterback issues, but you look at the Alex Smith story, you look at the Ron Rivera cancer story, you look at the emergence of Chase Young and Antonio Gibson and all these first-round picks in the defensive line finally doing something. The multiple quarterback changes. In a way, it'll all be worth it if you win the division, something nobody expected you to do. I certainly don't think folks will look back at 2020 as Washington fans and be sour about the progress that's made. But you know how NFL fans are. If you're not going to make the playoffs, you want to get the best draft pick you can get, and they kind of play themselves out of that situation. I think the biggest thing going forward is going to be what you do at quarterback, and unfortunately, whether they host a playoff game or not, that's not going to be any kind of answer. The only finality we got on that situation is Dwayne Haskins is not the guy going forward. But unlike the other three teams in the division, where maybe with contract situations with Dak and stuff like that, everybody at least has a capable quarterback in the building that you can build around. That's not the case in Washington.
Adam Winkler, WTKR-TV in Virginia, joins us here on SicEm365 Radio. Happy New Year, my old friend. Enjoy it with the family, and it's always great to talk to you.
Always great to be on with my girls in the 254. Appreciate you having me, and make sure everybody gets nice and liquored up before that 8:10 p.m. start Sunday night. It won't be pretty.
I promise I will. This is SicEm365 Radio. Thanks to Adam Winkler for jumping on the show with us. Phil Bennett comes up at 5 o'clock, open for your text in the next segment. This is SicEm365 Radio. I ran into my good friend Lance Donaldson the other day, and he is trying to close some houses here before the end of the year, and he's doing a great job of it. One of the things I'll tell you about Lance is a different kind of dude. He's a funny guy. He's real fun to be around. He's very passionate about whatever he gets involved in, and I'll tell you this about him. He just got 2 new Chiweenie puppies. And Chiweenies are half Chihuahua, half Wiener dog. They're adorable, adorable dogs. They're very small, but Lance has done more in the 1 month and a half that they've had those dogs, taking care of those dogs, than you would imagine anybody doing, because he cares about things. And he'll do that same thing for you when he's trying to help you find your home. So if you're in the market for a new home, if you are trying to sell your home, if you're just wondering about the market right now and want to dip your toes in the water, give Lance a call, or just Google him. Lance Donaldson, eXp Realty, on Google, or lancedonaldson.exprealty.com, and that will kind of put all your questions at rest, because you'll get to know all about Lance. You'll see his fantastic listings and everything he's got going. Or, like I said, give him a call, 254-214-3713. That's 254-214-3713.
MP Electric has developed a quality-oriented electrical contracting service in more than 20 years in the industry. Led by President Mark Perry, our electricians go through a 5-year apprenticeship program, are licensed by the state of Texas, and getting continuous education annually upon renewal. In great part, the success of MP Electric lies with its management and professional expertise of its employees. All of our employees share a dedication to quality and commitment to serving the needs of our customers. For new construction and remodels, parking lot, lighting and surge protection, landscape lights, security lights, troubleshooting, and repairs for industrial manufacturing, food and beverage, paper and publishing, heavy industry, cement and rock crushing plants, water distribution plants, and utilities. For 20 years, MP Electric has serviced industrial, commercial, and residential products. We do service right. MP Electric Inc. at 1890 Galaxy Road, Waco. MPElectricUSA.com.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries. Celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas, our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Come see us at the new Baylor Scott and White Ted and Sue Getterman Sports and Orthopedic Center. Trusted doctors at Baylor Trust, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio.
The SicEm365 Radio poll is brought to you by Pickup Outfitters, where everything purchased and installed comes with our famous lifetime installation guarantee and free warranty assistance. 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
All right, many things to get to that we haven't had a chance to. Phil Bennett joins us today at 5 o'clock. But a couple of notes. I've never seen this before, and I'm sure it's probably happened. The Mavericks lost their opening game. Phoenix just is very good, and a team that was 8-0, I think, in the bubble. Up-and-coming stud team. And then they lost to LeBron and the Lakers, who were coming off a loss to the Clippers. So you knew LeBron and company would be full throttle, and they were. So I'm watching the crawl. The Clippers are pretty good, right? Mm-hmm. They led the Clippers, and I thought this was like somebody made a number mistake. 77-27 at halftime.
Yeah, I had to go. I flipped over and found the game.
That's like a Lady Bears score.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. I was like, oh my gosh, that's insane.
77.
The Clippers are good. They have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George.
I know.
It's not like they're the old Clippers with Michael Olowokandi. I mean, they're good.
Many of the Clippers. It's 77-27. Just looks like it was a misprint. They ended up winning 124-73, so pretty much about the same number at halftime. They were up 50. They won by 51. Golly, that was out of nowhere. I got a chance to interview and meet Lloyd Phillips, and many of you may not know who he is. He was an All-American at the University of Arkansas. I think the Bears drafted him out of college. He was a part of their 1964 national championship team with guys like Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones on that same roster. Frank Broyles was the head coach. Lloyd Phillips played football at Longview. He was a Longview High School, former Lobo great, All-American. He's part of the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. He's part of the College Football Hall of Fame. Yeah, he passed away yesterday. He was 75. Due to the release I got was that he died. He passed away from complications from a stroke. He was the Outland Trophy winner in 1964. He played 3 years at Arkansas, and again, he was a part of that team. I bring it up as well. One, he was a great player, Texas Sports Hall of Fame here in Waco, but also because on that team, Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson. So that was yesterday's news. High school football, Paul. Trinity beat Allen 49-45. Now, Allen is last year got knocked out early for them. 49-45. Allen actually led that game at one point. I think it was 24-13. Trinity running back Ollie Gordon, 49 carries for 455 yards and 6 touchdowns in the win against Allen.
So I wonder how many plays they ran total, because sounds to me like, I'm thinking like maybe 20 plays that weren't him.
They probably had somebody else carry the ball 3 to 5, 10 times. Maybe a quarterback threw the ball 5 or 6 times. But when you can do that, and that's stunning.
You don't run 100 plays in a high school game. You don't have time. It's
when we had
minutes.
Terry Gamble on last week, I mentioned, are they still the same Trinity? Now, they've opened it up a little bit, as a lot of people have now with a quarterback in the gun or in the spread. But I watched some of the video, because people now have been able to get video. Remember, you couldn't video during the games, but you're starting to see more clips of that. They just pounded Allen, and Allen lost 49-45, 455 yards on 49 carries for Trinity. Now they'll meet South Lake Carroll. South Lake Carroll advanced in their game. That game, and they're having some fun at Globe Life Park right now. That place is set up perfectly for a lot of these playoff games. That's going to be Saturday at 11 o'clock. I don't know if you saw this. The Rangers signed Kohei Arihara. 2-year contract. He was with Hokkaido, the Nippon Ham Fighters in Japan. 60-50, 129 games, 15 wins last year.
No, I think you need to. Yes, he looks like they've done a lot of scouting over there, and actually their Asian scouting department's done a very good job over the years. But when you say you've got to pace it out, I know you lived over there, but it's confusing because you said Nippon Ham Fighters, which makes it sound like they're fighting ham, which I always thought that's what they were. But Nippon Ham is the company that owns the team.
Yes,
it's a canned ham.
I always thought Ham Fighters was their mascot.
That's what I thought. I thought maybe it's like
I lived there 4 years, and I believe their colors were like the Toronto Blue Jays colors.
Yeah. And for years, I was the same way. I thought, why would you fight ham? Like what? Like, or what is ham? Like, what did ham mean? Was it an abbreviation? Is it something because, Japanese is a different language. So what do they mean?
What's the name of that? There's a company in Tyler, Greenberg Turkey, smoked turkeys, right? So Greenberg it actually would be Nippon Ham. That's the name of the company. That's the name of the ham, Nippon Ham. So they slid in fighters.
Yeah, they're the fighters, but I always thought they were the ham fighters.
Isn't fighters a little bit too aggressive for this day and age of
not in Japan
politically correct?
I don't. Here's the thing. I think I don't know if Japan has the same. I'm sure they have some of the similar issues that we do, but
I would say that in America, can you be called the fighters? In this day and age,
you probably could.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you have the fighter, Japan. I don't know from living over there. I don't know if they have the same issues with social media, but they seem to be a lot more mellow than we are.
So, what's the name of the Redskins quarterback who came in and replaced Dwayne Haskins?
The football team. The football team's quarterback is Taylor Heineke.
Heineke?
Yes.
He went to Old Dominion.
Yes.
I saw a writer who covers Washington. His course load in college at Old Dominion was number theory, discrete mathematics, partial differential equations, applied numerical methods, mathematics, and nature sounds.
Nature sounds sounds like the one. Of course, you can take nature sounds. What is nature sounds?
Like an elephant farting? I don't know. I mean,
or is it like moo? That's a cow. That's
nature sounds could be what guys do. They learn women that learn how to hunt.
I guess I don't know. The other ones, I mean, he could
like
take
duck calls.
Look, with all those other math classes and number theory and that he was taking, he can certainly take. This is the sound of a chickadee. Just to relax.
Cowboys are going to win the division. Andrew Siciliano. The AFC is guaranteed because of yesterday's results. How about this, Tyler? They're going to have a team win 10 games or more and miss the playoffs. The NFC is most likely going to end up with teams with 6 and 8 wins make the playoffs.
Well, if the
NFC East is going to be an under 500 team, no matter what.
If the Bears lose, I think they're out.
So Dallas plays New York. Mm-hmm. If the Cowboys beat the Giants,
they'll have 7 wins.
Then Washington loses to Philly Sunday night. We're going to make excruciatingly wait up till late Sunday.
They'll be 6-10.
Then Dallas makes whoever wins Dallas, New York.
Yes.
Whoever wins the game, if Philly beats Washington, they're in the playoffs.
Yes.
But if Washington wins, no matter what happens, Dallas and New York, the Washington football team makes the playoffs.
I would think if for Dallas or New York, whichever team wins that game and watches with bated breath hoping that the Eagles win the game, if Washington wins, that's going to be a really bummer of a night, especially the Cowboys are on a roll. They've won 3 games in a row, and part of that is...
This reminds me, yeah.
Part of that is the teams that have been playing, but part of it is, look, they've... I have to give credit where I wasn't giving credit earlier, is that the coaching staff has finally figured out what works for this group of players, at least for right now.
Well, defensively, they're forcing turnovers. Philadelphia came out looking really good with Jalen Hurts, and he became a turnover machine. Dallas did this one year back during their really good run, and I believe this might have been during the Aikman years. I don't know if it was one of the years in which they won the 3 out of 4 Super Bowls, because they usually, they pretty much took care of their business. But I thought there was a year when Dallas was on their way somewhere. It might have been a Sunday night and they found out that the Falcons had lost, or they were playing the Falcons, but they won. They found out somebody that it could knock them out, that could eliminate their chances, lost. And they were playing like Arizona or something. And it gave them a chance, and they won. And it's very similar, except they'll play early. I don't know why they would move that game, Washington, Philly, when you have Green Bay and Chicago is a pretty important game. I understand Washington, Philadelphia, the media, you'll have all the Cowboys fans watching that game, unless they lose. And then you'll have all the Giants fans watching that game, which are 2 large, obviously, markets. Tom Brady, 17 consecutive years he's been in the playoffs as a starting quarterback. 18 of those 19 as a starter. 17th consecutive year as a double-digit winner, double-digit wins as a starter.
It's pretty impressive.
Buccaneers are going to the playoffs for the first time in 13 years.
Yeah, and all it took was the greatest quarterback who's ever lived to get them out of their funk. They're still kind of uneven sometimes, but it's his first year there. I don't know.
How many more does he have left?
I mean, this one probably.
And I know he's
year.
outlasted what most people thought. Right?
This year, but does he? I mean, when you've watched him play, he's had games where he does sometimes look like he's 41 years old.
There's been games when Bruce Arians has had to call him out. Yeah. But he was, oh my gosh, in that first half against Detroit was incredible.
Well, here's the key to winning if you have Mike Evans on your team. Throw the ball to Mike Evans. He's uncoverable. He and Devontae Adams, to me, are the 2 most fun players to watch in the league right now. I also like watching Derrick Henry, and I thought he might have had a better game last night against what's been a bad run defense. But I think that if you grow up in Pensacola, Florida, and then go play in that weather, I don't care how long you've been in the league, you're not.
Tennessee's had some bad weather games. How many people lost their fantasy football because of Alvin Kamara?
A lot.
Everybody that played against him?
I can't imagine you. If you had him and you lost, it meant that the rest of your team was really bad.
I always, as a kid, I loved football history, and then I probably have gotten away from that a little bit as I've gotten older the last 15 or 20 years. But I remember reading books about Ernie Nevers, and it might have been 1943. That's a number. It's weird. It's strange to me that I can remember that, but I couldn't tell you who won the rushing title other than Derrick Henry before him. But maybe it was Ezekiel Elliott. 6 touchdowns in that game. And if you were facing him, was that like a 50-point fantasy football game? 6 touchdowns, 130 yards rushing?
I think it was, in most leagues, it was 45 to 50 points. He was and here's the thing, he was the 4th highest fantasy point scorer in the last 20 years, the 4th. There were 3 that were higher. I think number 1 is Jamal Charles, had just a game to end all games. Late in the season, too, so it knocked some people out of the playoffs.
He was amazing. Mm-hmm. Bryce Hager, 10 tackles and also a tackle for a loss, and the Jets win. They've won back-to-back games. Blake Lynch had his first opportunity, 10 tackles.
Oh, he played well. I watched that game. He played
Vikings,
well.
yeah.
Yeah, he played well.
Harrison Hand had a pick in that game, former Baylor defensive back who went on to play when he went to Temple, right? Mm-hmm. And Blake Lynch had 7 solo tackles, 10 tackles overall, and that would have been his 3rd best game. This is a Colt Barber nugget. His 3rd best game, including anything he ever did at Baylor. But he's turned out to be a heck of a player. Clay Johnston was activated in their win against Washington. I saw all sorts of other names. Braylon Arnold. Denzel Mims didn't catch a pass yesterday. Obviously, Bravion Roy, a couple of tackles for Carolina. So it was nice to see some of the names of former Baylor players in the NFL yesterday. And we mentioned Matt Rule in Carolina gave Washington heartburn after their win 20-13 yesterday. Here's a story that's on the front page of ESPN.com with the discussion of Dwayne Haskins being released. Ron Rivera cements his power in Washington. If that's Danny's boy, right? That's Danny Snyder's guy.
Yeah.
2 years into it, gone.
Well, they don't have a GM right now, and they're going to hire a GM. The other thing that's going on in Washington, and this bears watching, is that there is some ownership strife. For the first time ever, Dan Snyder has people trying to force him out. Now, what I do know is that it was uncovered that he paid a $1.6 million sexual harassment settlement to someone. Now, he's countersued saying that was, that never should have come out, and it's the minority owners trying to extort money from him and try to get him to sell the team and all that. Look, Jerry Richardson got forced to sell the Panthers because he was telling girls how nice they look in their jeans, and that stuff sticks. It's not good, and so Dan Snyder, if he's got that going on and the NFL didn't know about it, or they know about it now, they're going to have to act because the precedent was set with Jerry Richardson.
When we come back, Phil Bennett, former Baylor defensive coordinator on the 4 teams in the college football playoff. His thoughts maybe about Baylor as well and their search for an offensive coordinator in that staff. This is SicEm365 Radio.
At Baylor University, students can shine in their own way. Or should we say their own ways? Because there's no limit to the ways Baylor students make the world a brighter place. Whether they're leading a student organization or following a higher calling, getting advice from faculty, or taking part in world-class research, pursuing their dreams, or working toward their dream job, students find their place to shine at Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, and Balcones whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, rye, brimstone, and the all-new lineage in stock. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingram with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Waco
Custom Marketplace is your home for holiday favorites for parties and the time with family. Various specials available in-store and online. A variety of steak gift boxes with 4 ribeyes for $70, 4 bacon wrapped fillets for $55, or 4 New York strips for $50, and all come with steak butter. Fall snack box for watching a game or wrapping presents or hosting people at your house, including summer sausage, split horn, and jalapeno cheese and salted crackers for only $35. 2 pieces of lobster tails with herb butter and 2 bacon wrapped fillets for $60. Order online or call in advance to ensure availability, or drop by Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive. Waco Custom Marketplace has a full-service butcher shop for customized orders or cuts of your favorite steaks or beef tenderloin or specially ordered prime rib roast. Plus, what you want with pork, poultry, seafood, and more. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Christmas time is Jeep time at Allen Samuels. It's the big finish event, and the world's most awarded SUV has 0%, no payments for 90 days, and employee pricing for all on select models. Save thousands on the rugged Renegade and new 2020 Grand Cherokees. Even new 2021 Jeep Cherokees are included. 0%, no payments for 90 days. Employee pricing for all. Happy holidays from Allen Samuels.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
That one picked off, and it's a pick 6 by Jalen Petrie.
This segment with former Baylor defensive coordinator Phil Bennett is sponsored by the Nichie Group Insurance Company, where clients are more than just a policy number. See why thousands of Texans trust the Nichie Group with their home, auto benefits, and commercial insurance coverage. Call their Waco office to speak with an expert at 254-420-3900 or visit them online at tngins.com.
Here's David Smoak and Paul Catalina.
All right, here we go. This New Year's week. Christmas, of course, just finished up on Friday, and now we head to the college football playoff. But also one of the stories in college football here locally is Dave Aranda and also Baylor looking for offensive coordinator and a staff that was shaken up, was it a week ago today? I believe it was a week ago today, with Larry Fedora and George Munoz on their way out. Phil Bennett, former Baylor defensive coordinator, with us on SicEm365 Radio. Phil, obviously Baylor's offense struggled. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you. They struggled. It seemed like that nothing ever really fit. Your thoughts when you heard the news about Larry Fedora and George Munoz, both of them gone from Dave Aranda's staff?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I was surprised considering everything, no spring training, the COVID issues. And I've said this many times, it was a hard year to judge. But at the same time, Dave's around them. He sees them every day. And there was something he saw there that didn't fit for whatever reason. Now, I know both guys. I know both of them are really good coaches. And you've seen it through Baylor. Sometimes good guys don't fit in what they, in the situation they're in, and they have to make a change. And obviously Dave saw that. I think both of them will be fine. I think, Larry and George both will get jobs and be successful again. Now, the hard thing is Dave's got to find someone that comes in and with a new quarterback and can get done what he wants done.
As a person who's had to hire assistant coaches before and at this time of year, what is the challenge on that, especially scheduling around, you've got a dead period now, so you can do that, but, guys, trying to make plans for the next year?
It's challenging. Now, like I said, he's got to have the parameters of what he wants. What is he, and not saying that he didn't when he hired Larry, but the other scenario that you're looking at is most coordinators that come in, they're going to want to bring some people with them. I'm not a guy myself. I'm not a guy that believes in giving people a bunch of titles. You know, passing game coordinator, running game coordinator. Listen, there's one guy in charge, and if it's the defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator, you know, that's his name on it. And that's just old school. You know, when I first started, there wasn't even coordinators. You just had a lead coach. Do you remember that, Smokey?
Yeah.
You used to just be the lead coach, and then they became coordinators. And I'm not saying that there were battles at Baylor, but I've been told there were. You know, there was conflict, and sometimes, let me say this: conflict. A lot of times, good things come out of conflict. When and evidently at this stage, it didn't work well for them, and. You know, Dave's got to find guys that fit what he wants, but he's not going to bring in a top-notch coordinator that doesn't say, "Hey, I'd like to have my old line. I'd like to hire my old line coach." You know. So I'm not sure the dust is completely settled there.
Do you think that an offensive coordinator, a head coach, is tied in usually with the strength and conditioning coach? I believe, and. Is the same thing said for an offensive coordinator tied into an offensive line coach?
You know, I've said this. There's two positions that if you're not coordinators, you better have some more coaches, and that's O-line and secondary, because you're coaching the most guys, and it's the place that you can get beat the fastest. You know, if you can't win the battle up front, on offense, you're not going to win. And if you can't protect the quarterback, you're not going to win. In the secondary, if you can't stop the vertical passing game, you're not going to win. And you're the last line of defense, and you're usually forced. Now, the way this game's evolved, it's basically five guys with the nickel. So those two positions, other than your coordinators who are tying things together, you know, I've always said this: I'd never have a defensive coordinator that was not a secondary coach. You know, you have to know the fronts, but if you don't know the secondary, you can really hang some coaches out to dry. I see it in the NFL. I saw it at the end. I don't know if you watched the end of the Oakland Raiders game against Dolphins, but I like Rod Marinelli. But he does the same thing he did with the Cowboys. He put them in a cover two look at the end of the game with 19 seconds. I mean, and I don't know why. I mean, they had to throw the ball deep. You don't need a corner in the flat. And any secondary coach would have protected four deep the whole time. And it ended up costing the game. But that's just my opinion.
Phil, actually, we were just talking about that before your segment. I thought of you before I flipped over to watch that game, and they were doing a pregame segment where they were putting word bubbles next to John Gruden's play calls, and I bust out laughing, thinking, "Oh, Coach Bennett's not kidding."
I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I promise you, you know, it's not near as complicated. I think sometimes the guys in the NFL want to make it complicated to justify, you know, what their jobs. You know, I laugh. The guy in Dallas, I've known him when he's a Pittsburgh guy, and I've known him, and when he went there, the first thing he said was, "I'm going to have 14 or 15 guys that are analytical coaches. They're analytics people." You know, I just started laughing. I said, "Are you saying that because it wants you want people to think you're smart?" You know, there's some common sense in this game that people make it a lot more complicated than it is. And, you know, I go back to the guy at Texas Tech this year one time, you know, needed a 2-score game. So he kicked the field goal on second down. You know, I'll never get over that. I mean, why not, you know, score fast and then go with it? I mean, I just think sometimes we make it way too complicated.
Could you tell, and I asked Dave Aranda this the week of their last game against Oklahoma State. We know they got smoked in that game. But could you tell that they were trying to fit a square into a circle with Charlie Brewer? And could that have also been mixed messages? Not saying we know that, but could it have been mixed messages in what Larry Fedora wanted to do, who was the offensive coordinator, or George Munoz and what he wanted to do, who's the wide receivers coach, passing game coordinator?
Well, I'm going to simplify this for you, and I've said this before, and it's just not a knock. It's just the truth. When Matt Rule left, he knew what he was doing. There were not an abundance of Big 12 players there, and put very simple on offense, offensive line, running back, receivers, just not guys that are going to separate themselves in the game. And I think you can maybe say that with George and Larry were on different pages, but I promise you, their talent level during my tenure at Baylor, watching them, I've never seen it that low. I mean, the guys, Rule won with our players, plain and simple. And Charlie Brewer came in, and he was a nice blend with Mims, our little running back from Longview. The offensive line was there. I just never saw a team that really that could really go out there and execute and scare you at anything. We didn't run the ball because we couldn't. I mean, it was obvious. And then I go back to all the way back to the West Virginia game, Smokey. Remember the fourth down play, right?
Yep.
We couldn't get in. And now, let me say this again. There were issues. I know that. I mean, we started a bunch of different kids on the O-line. But there were some good players, but no separators on the offensive side of the ball. And the two best separators on defense were Petrie and probably Tejada, the guys that played, and Morgan. I mean, those were your best, of course, with Bernard. And then, but not a number of them. So I looked at it more as a talent issue than I did as a quarterback not fitting the system issue. That's just me personally.
Phil Bennett, former Baylor defensive coordinator, with us on SicEm365 Radio.
All right, the CFP is this week, Coach, and Alabama, Notre Dame, and Clemson, Ohio State. Notre Dame, they got blown up by Clemson the second time they played them because Trevor Lawrence was in there. They've been blown out in these games before. Brian Kelly said something interesting, that he didn't feel he had anything to prove on that it was just about this year. But does that weigh heavy on players when they've seen kind of the history of, look, they get to that point and then they play these teams and they've struggled?
Well, the players, they have short memories. Trust me, I know Brian Kelly well. He's stressing over it, but he's saying what he has to say. I read that also. If you read the whole thing, he said, "Hey, we play great teams every week, and we're proving that we belong here by how we work to get here." And I agree with that. But I will think that this game against Alabama, there's going to be an extra. I've been involved with that before, where you're trying to get across this barrier of playing in championship, high-level games where you can, validate your season. And that's what he's going to try to do. And I will make a prediction. I'm not saying they will beat Alabama, but I think they will play Alabama much better than people think they might.
How would you, and Trevor Lawrence obviously looks like he's got that, vibe of being a not only a great college quarterback, he's been good at Clemson, but what he's also expected to be able to do in the NFL. And you're looking at a team in Clemson that seems like they've gotten hot at just the right time. How do you defend what they do? And Etienne, the Travis Etienne, the running back, is fantastic as well.
Two things about that game that they played against Notre Dame. Number one, if you remember the first game, Notre Dame's little running back gave Clemson fits. I mean, Clemson struggled stopping that kid, and I know they missed Trevor, but defensively they struggled. Well, Venable comes back and has an outstanding game plan. I mean, he took the run away, made the quarterback have to be the guy, and I just thought it was a great game plan, and I thought that how they played on defense was unbelievable. Now, with that said, having Lawrence back, if you remember, it's a fairly close game. Notre Dame goes down there twice, kicks a field goal, misses a short field goal, and then Trevor gets hot. He runs the bender before halftime. Nobody's there. It's funny. I agree. I think Dabo is a good coach. Dabo's not a coordinator. He's not an X and O guy. He has a wonderful staff and Brent and Tony Elliott and those guys. But after the game, he was pulling for Trevor to be a Heisman choice, which we all think he probably could be, but obviously missed a couple of games. But yet then he votes Ohio State number 11. And this game, I think they're much better than Ohio State. Ohio State is not as good on defense as they've been, not even close. Northwestern gave them fits. And I think defensively, Clemson has got too much firepower. Though I am worried. I don't know if you remember this, but Venables had a starting safety in with 6 minutes to go, and he got a head-to-head, so he's out the first half.
Oh, he was ejected. That's right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We've talked about Brent Venables pretty much ready for a head coaching job and has proven a lot of stuff. You know him well, and Tony Elliott is a name that keeps popping up, but nothing yet on those guys, and partially because they're in a great spot. They don't have to just take a job to take a job. Coach, what's it like for them to be in that catbird seat when sometimes you have to take an opportunity because you've wanted to be a head coach for a long time?
Well, I think first of all, to me, the first thing that comes to mind is respect. They respect what Dabo and them are doing there, and that Clemson has been very good to them. It's lucrative financially for both of them. It's a small town. Their kids are adjusted there. And I don't know if you know this, but Brent has not one but two boys playing on the team. One's a safety and one's a linebacker. So for him to leave at this point would almost be impossible. And Tony, Tony's one of those guys that he's smart enough that he's worked his way up. He's not going to take just any job. And it's got to be a job. I think both of them would be excellent head coaches without question. But I think they're smart enough, and I think Dabo and Dan Radakovic take very good care of them, and they're smart enough not to jump at jobs that they don't want.
Phil, how much do you get to watch the NFL? Do you watch the Cowboys at all?
I'm going to tell you something. Yesterday was the first day that I really watched them. My son Sam, who, by the way, I'm gonna put a plug in. They beat U of H in the New Mexico Bowl in Frisco on Christmas Eve. So he's here with me, and we watched the Cowboys yesterday. Of course, he grew up in Dallas, loved the Cowboys, and I'm telling you, yesterday I really watched them for the first time. They've got a tight end and 3 receivers and 2 running backs. And when Andy Dalton playing like that, they were pretty salty.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I ask you that because their defense was a mess. They couldn't stop the run. Everyone focused on the offense, Dak getting hurt, but they could not stop the run. And so, and they still struggle with that. You wonder what the hell Philadelphia was thinking.
I still don't know.
But it seems as if, and we saw this with your team in 2012, you see this with teams, if people are patient, I'm not saying it's clicked, but they're forcing turnovers. They're flying around to the football. There were thoughts that Nolan may not survive the year. We know everyone played really hard for Rod Marinelli. He was easy to play for because he's such a great guy and a motivator. But, can you kind of discuss how all of a sudden things seem like they just click when you don't expect it to, or you kind of see it coming?
Well, first of all, I can tell you, they got some guys back. They had some guys during that span there that weren't healthy. They've gotten some guys back, and it's obvious as a coaching staff. I've just, from what I've read, I haven't watched them in great detail, but they said yesterday, one of the announcers said that they're becoming confident in what they're calling.
Mm-hmm.
They had new corners yesterday. That was their big concern yesterday, and early on it was a problem with the deep ball. But I think that they stayed the course. I think Jerry and Steven didn't panic. Nolan's been in this league a long time, and very seldom a guy with his record can't get it rectified at some point. One thing with Rod Marinelli, I said that he's a great D-line coach. I can't say he's a great coordinator. because, I mean, it's hard to entrust somebody in the back end when it's that important.
Yeah, just as somebody who covers the team and watches them a lot, it's been up and down. And I wondered, the team, the players didn't get to know Mike Nolan at all because they didn't have that all season. And then they left from Rod Marinelli, who, and I know, Phil, I know you know him, players who play for Rod Marinelli said, like, if he asked me to crawl across hot coals over broken glass through a brick wall, I'd do it.
Guy.
Yeah. I mean, so it's tough. I mean, like, there's a transition to the guy that was here. I would give him a kidney if he asked me for, and I don't know this new guy that you have that's a gap.
Yeah. Are we keeping,
whether you want to or not,
Yeah.
the trust between player coach, and it goes back to what we talked about, what went on at Baylor. I talked to Todd Graham about this at Hawaii, and Sam. Sam never got to spend any time with his players on fundamentals. But yes, I mean, the trust between player coach is huge.
Your son's in town. Are we keeping you from hitting a driver off of 12 or something like that? Or
no. He's actually been on a recruiting call. He's working.
Oh, okay.
They can't go out, but I tell you something. The Bowls are different, though, guys.
Yeah.
They went to they had to keep the bubble in the hotel there in Frisco, and now it was fun. The first time they got to have fans at any game this year. It's the first time, and there was probably 4,000 fans there in Frisco at the soccer field, and but it was a good Christmas Eve. They got after it, played good, and beat Houston, and finished the year on a good note.
Yeah, it was. Hawaii was a factor. You saw them, you watched them. They did well, and it was a nice way to end the year. Phil, thank you very much. Can we? I know I keep pushing the envelope here. Any chance we look at the championship game with you next week?
Absolutely, call me.
All right,
you
buddy.
know it. I enjoy visiting with y'all.
Thank you, Phil Bennett, former Baylor defensive coordinator. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Phil Bennett with us to discuss Dave Aranda's search for an offensive coordinator, and also the playoffs as well. Looks like he thinks that Alabama Notre Dame might be a little bit closer than most people think, huh?
Yeah, look, Brian Kelly, for all I'd heard about him and for all early on, I was kind of confused about him. Talk about a guy who changed what he did. He changed what he did. He adapted. And that was smart. You know who else changed what he did and adapted was Nick Saban. Nick Saban couldn't figure out the spread offense for a while, and he was losing a couple games.
I still don't know if he's got a grasp on it. But again, a lot of people don't.
But you know what he did? Instead of saying, like, all right, well, I'm gonna do what I've always done all this time.
Yeah, no.
And then my defense will leave the stopper at one. He said, okay, how do I score this many points too? And most days his defense looks fantastic. And then sometimes they play a team that can match them athletically.
Yeah, they
a little
still
bit.
get the same guys. And I'll tell you what they've done in Texas and Ohio State has done in Texas with recruiting, and I'm not saying they haven't done that before, but I mean they're getting dudes out of the state. That 5-star running back out of out of Mansfield or whatever it is, or Midlothian, wherever. That it was an Oklahoma lean, and he ends up at Alabama. We know about the quarterback out of Houston, Milroe, who was a Texas commit. Now he's at Alabama. Those two schools. And you wonder how much of that is just because they're the elite schools. Mm-hmm. Elite schools get anyone anywhere they want, no matter what. And is it because when A&M joined the SEC? Mm-hmm. They opened up the door even wider for the SEC.
I think that's what they did.
As if they needed anyone to open up their door.
And look, that was a risk A&M was willing to take, but and they didn't have to worry about everybody else. But for everybody else, it has to now. All right, so let's say there were, Alabama would go in and they'd get the top guy, but maybe not they weren't in on the top 7 guys because. They would say, look, I really want to play some home games in Texas, or I want to play some away games. My family needs to come and see me. That would be out the door. Well, now they say, look, once a year, we're going to play A&M. You're going to be in there. Your family's going to watch it. I don't know if that's much of a big deal anymore because, believe me, they'll find a way to get your family to a game. But, yeah, I think certainly it is because the other thing is now because people in the area are watching more SEC, you get more SEC fans.
Well, every game can be seen on television.
But
so
like
even
as
if you
far
live
as-
in Waco and your son plays at Alabama, you could watch every game.
No, but I'm talking about the kids.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
like, you know, before, the way that television worked before, all that happened was, well, I'll watch the SEC game. It's Alabama, LSU. That's what I'll watch. But A&M's playing SEC games every week. So if you're in an area where, there's a bunch of A&M fans or you're watching that game, then all of a sudden you say, well, you know what? I like that coach at Alabama, or I like that coach at Ole Miss, or man, Dan Mullen, he's my style of guy.
I can't find the odds. I'm reading this page a little bit differently because gambling with the odds in Vegas have become very, very complicated. The Ohio State Clemson, the over-under 64.5. It depends on who you look at. Is it a minus 10? If Clemson's a favored by 10? And then Notre Dame and Alabama is also minus 10? Or what am I looking at here? Over-unders are about the same. I see. I thought Notre Dame and Alabama was like 16 or 17, which is, I would take that in a heart. Wouldn't you? I would take that in a heartbeat.
Where are you looking?
I'm on the Vegas. This is where I've always looked at VegasInsider.com. Let me just go to college football odds. You guys look at what you. Let me see.
Hold on, I've got to scroll to
That's
it.
the same one. I just got to the same one. Yeah, let me see if this is sports book. I'm just curious because I was curious about these two teams.
Oh, they have all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, they got Ohio State. Yes, Ohio State. Clemson's Clemson's favored by 7.
Yeah.
Notre Dame, Alabama's minus 19.5. And that might be the 4th or 5th best team in the country who beat Clemson. And what would Alabama, and if it would have been A&M? Because if Notre Dame would have made it, let's just say for whatever reason, for giggles, that it wouldn't have been Ohio State included, Notre Dame played Clemson already once. They've played them twice.
So it would have been A&M versus – the A&M would have been the 4. They'd have played Alabama. So it would probably been the same spread.
It would have about the same thing because they beat them by 24 the last time.
Yeah. By the way, just to show you how much respect Ole Miss's offense gets, they're playing Indiana, a team with a markedly better record than Ole Miss, and they're only 8-point dogs.
Yeah. What's the over-under on that game?
65.5.
A&M's a 6-point favorite over North Carolina. Texas is, I think, an 8-point favorite in their game with Colorado that's coming up
7.5
tomorrow.
on A&M right now. So,
Oklahoma State, Miami, and then Texas and Colorado, a couple of Big 12 teams back-to-back play tomorrow in their bowl games. All right, when we come back, 5:30, 254-339-1122. If you could, or if you want to, if you right now entering what is the end of the year, if I asked you, put them in order on how you think they come out of spring drills. Zeno, Bohannon, Chapin, and Drones. Just for a little bit of fun. How would you rank them as what they'll be coming out of spring drills? Zeno, Bohannon, Chapin, and Kyron Drones. 254-339-1122. And this is SicEm 365 Radio.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Steve Chapman brought us some of their special single barrel Balcones whiskey that was with the Waco Whiskey Club and Balcones that I have not had yet. I'm saving it for New Year's Eve. That's when I'm going to have it. But it's got a great look to it, and I'm sure it's fantastic because everything from Balcones is. And that's a limited supply. I'm not sure how much they came through the holiday weekend with, but if you are interested in that single barrel that you can only get at Riverbend Liquor and Wine, head on down to Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and say you want the special Balcones release, and they will get that for you. It's fantastic. I actually wound up buying it as a gift for a couple people for Christmas as well, just because it is. You get a single barrel, and you gotta enjoy that while you can. And look, if you're not a whiskey person, if you're wine, if you're craft beer, whatever it is, the selection at Riverbend Liquor and Wine is out of this world. They've got stuff from all over the place, and they can find it. They can get it. If you're looking for something, you're confused, you want to match something taste that maybe they don't make anymore, they can find something for you at Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and find out more about their deals on Facebook and Instagram.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries. Celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas, our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Come see us at the new Baylor Scott and White Ted and Sue Getterman Sports and Orthopedic Center. Trusted doctors at Baylor Trust, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recall drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com. Principal office located in Houston, Texas.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
This is SicEm365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The SicEm365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
I know that in this day and age, if you mention Democrat and if you're Republican, there's like it's immediately or vice versa, or liberal and conservative or whatever, blue states and red states. And I know that Rush Limbaugh is not loved by everybody, and a lot of people don't like him or whatever. But I read this last week. It made me stop for a second. He's dying of terminal lung cancer. He signed off his show before the holidays. We'll be back in late January when I received my diagnosis, and I was shocked. I was stunned. I was in denial for about a week. I mean, I'm Rush Limbaugh. I'm Mr. Big of the vast right-wing conspiracy. I mean, I'm indestructible. This can't be, but it is. He's dying. But it made me wonder where I would be had it not been for him, whether you love his politics, his opinions, or his commentaries, or I wouldn't be on the radio.
Well, look, I'll say this.
Because he saved radio.
And I don't I don't care for him anymore. I used to like him. I don't care for him anymore, but that's another thing.
Well, but you just did what I said. This is not about that.
But I am going to say this. Yeah. He did, the radio would not be anything what it was if he did not pioneer what he did. Because radio used to be pretty basic. I mean, it was pretty, this was what radio was. It was, you have a guy comes on and goes, well, hey, you're listening to the ones and twos here, and we're going to play music and do that. You didn't really have much talk radio. You had some kind of interview stuff from then and then. You had, Paul Harvey, who was a legend, who was great, who did kind of slice of life pieces and things like that. Prairie Home Companion, stuff like that. But you didn't have anybody out there bombastically sharing opinions and
he moved the needle
and shaking things up. No, and like when I was a kid, I loved him. I loved his show.
And you were in Florida at the time.
I loved him.
I was in the middle of a transition between long time being a part of television, which I continued to do for many years after I started hosting a radio show in 1990. But the reason why talk radio had a comeback, a lot of it has to do with Rush Limbaugh because of the impact that he had, because some stations that all of a sudden otherwise were killing when AM radio station was dying. They were dying. And I'll never forget, he was on a competitive station out of Longview, and a station that had very little signal, but he was on that station. It was like trying to fight up like Mount Everest. But we did a really good job of piecing together. We had Paul Harvey. And now Paul Harvey did a short little snippet, and then he, of course, had rest of the story. And I've told this story before. When my show started in 1990, I actually followed Paul Harvey's rest of the story, which was good and bad. The bad news is I was not at the top of the hour. The good news is I followed Paul Harvey's rest of the story. You see how they place those 6:30 shows on network TV, like Vanna White, what's the
Wheel of Fortune?
Yeah, I mean, those are lead-ins to network television for reasons. Local stations pay a lot of money, I don't know if they still do, for those 6:30 shows between the local news and networks. But Rush Limbaugh, eventually he was a part of the same station and where I worked for a long, long time. But I saw this story. I don't know how much longer he has. He's already outlasted what any of the doctors thought. But he's the one that really saved AM radio. I'm not saying by himself, but he had a huge impact on AM radio. Wasn't there a time when some cars and trucks did not have AM radio? They were building vehicles without AM radio.
Just like that, a lot of cars, the older cars, just had AM radios.
Yes.
Then FM comes out and it was AM, FM, and then it's starting to fade away. And so Rush Limbaugh, he starts getting on all these stations across the country, and then you're putting him back in cars. Yeah, look, he was good for the economy. I mean, he really was. I mean, he did for at least in our business. And the other thing it made it do was people tried to create, different shows around it or similar. I mean, G. Gordon Liddy got a show that was nationally syndicated, and you wouldn't have thought a guy who was a Watergate burglar would have done a compelling radio show, but it was compelling.
You had a lot of people. We have Sean Hannity was spurred off of that.
I mean, all these things that have happened in talk radio, look, good and bad and indifferent in the middle are because of Rush Limbaugh and opposition, shows with different views. People wouldn't have really cared as much until they said, like, man, the number one radio show in the world is this viewpoint. Can we get one that's the other
viewpoint? Has anyone ever?
No.
Ever.
They never will.
Why?
Because he was the first. Okay.
I'm not talking about be as powerful as him.
Okay. The Tonight Show's had
How come you've never been able to have someone, and I'll use the political terms, who is left-wing or liberal, have that kind of impact on the radio? Isn't that crazy? They just got 80 million votes or whatever.
You know why? You know why? Because it's a response. It's kind of like, I think of it like Johnny Carson. Okay, the Tonight Show's had a bunch of hosts. Before Johnny Carson, they had several hosts. After Johnny Carson, they've had 3, and none of them have been able to capture the audience like Johnny Carson because Johnny was the best, and Rush was, it was the best at what he did in radio. In that. And again, like you said, love him or hate him. Well, the other thing he got is people listen to Rush Limbaugh. People would listen to Rush Limbaugh to be like, oh, damn it, Rush. Like, God, what do you say this? And I don't know if liberal radio people don't listen to it. I think they just turn it off, because that's kind of a different thing of the personality.
The Johnny Carson thing is a great analogy.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny's the best.
I watch zero late night television.
But David Letterman is as good of a television host that's ever lived, and he is not nearly as good as Johnny Carson was at that job. Jimmy Fallon does a really kind of different, interesting show, and all the other guys do different, interesting shows. But Johnny Carson was the GOAT, and there will not be another Johnny Carson.
Because you were always waiting for him, not so much to crack a joke, but to do something in his own little way with his looks and his humbleness that he had, even though he had a huge ego too. Here's something that made me stop. I'm 61 years old. You're
40.
Tyler, you're 20.
It's 30.
30.
Tyler is 30.
3-0 now.
This is the line that every one of us has to look at. But when you've been told with what he has, we obviously shared a segment today about former Baylor assistant softball coach Mark Lumley. I mentioned Lloyd Phillips, Arkansas All-American, who passed away of a stroke at 75. This sentence here, stopped me in my tracks. Limbaugh said he lives this is if you've been diagnosed with something, and this could happen to any of us at any moment. Limbaugh said he lives each day knowing there's an expiration date. I mean, we all do, but when you have been told something like that, that's powerful.
Yeah.
And he's already been told, he goes, listen, I've already, I didn't realize this, but I was not supposed to make it to October, November, December, and here I am.
And here's the other thing you need to remember about Rush Limbaugh, and like him or not, he's about to suffer a lot, and he is also a narcotics addict, a recovering addict. He got addicted, he had a surgery, and he got addicted to Oxy, and that's what made him go deaf. He has a cochlear implant because he got so onto drugs. So he's probably going to have to go through, I know he's dying, but he's probably going to have to go through this without as much painkiller as you would normally get, and because it did, it's really, and it's going to be sad. It's a sad thing. And he did our business, YouTube, all this stuff, Rush Limbaugh, and I mean, Howard Stern was on FM radio. So that's a kind of a different thing, but the cross media of radio guys being on TV was him and Stern. I mean, those two guys made it what it is now.
We're in the business of whatever we call this. We're now sports talk radio. We try to give you human interest stories as well. Obviously, the television stream, the video stream that we have as well. It's made it a fun journey since we started back on April the 6th. We have shows all the way through Wednesday this week. Danny White, former Cowboys quarterback, tomorrow. Drew Pearson on Wednesday, along with other guests we have lined up. To discuss now, the Cowboys are in a playoff mode. Last night's win, or yesterday afternoon's win against Philadelphia, was a playoff game. It was. Winner is alive, the loser's gone. So they're in the playoffs technically, although it's hard to fathom. At 7-9, they could make it. Although right now, I bet if you polled this, Tyler, if I asked you, Paul, what's going to happen this weekend? What's more likely? Dallas wins, Washington loses, or all the other scenarios?
I think Dallas is going to win, and I think Washington. If Alex Smith plays, I think Washington. He's going to.
If Alex Smith plays,
I think Washington wins if Alex Smith plays. But if it's Taylor Heineke, I don't know.
You look back at yesterday's game. What did you think, Tyler?
That would be my biggest holdup too. Is if Alex Smith plays.
Okay. But he hasn't played in 3 weeks either. So here's a guy that came back from being basically all but crippled. Look, lose his leg. And he had this great 4 consecutive wins under Alex Smith, who he's a bus driver. He's been more than that at times in his career with San Francisco, Kansas City. But all they need is a bus driver. Well, Bill Parcells used to talk about. I needed a bus driver.
Got their asses kicked by a bus driver yesterday.
But he could make some throws.
Teddy Bridgewater, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Mm-hmm. They also muffed a punt inside the 5, which my only question about that is, why were you trying to field a punt inside your 5?
It's not like they were in Green Bay where they couldn't see the 5. They had to guess at it.
I could watch games in the snow every day, every week, every season.
By the way, how cool was that NBC was able to digitally overlay a field so you could see the hash marks on TV?
Oh, is that what that was?
That's what that was.
That wasn't them Zambonian?
No.
That wasn't
they digitally overlaid it.
No. The NFL swept those hash marks.
No.
So how do they know where to mark the ball?
NBC, because the official does that. But after the say it stopped snowing as much after halftime, it was a little easier. But early in the game, Al Michaels said, "Look, the players can't see the hash marks and the yard lines. We've digitally put that in." So,
all right, there's another thing television-wise that was unveiled. I don't know if it was this week or maybe in the last week or two. I'm not sure. Tyler, you're a TV guy as well. Fox in the game with Dallas and Philadelphia had a camera that looked as if you were, and these cameras now that they use are amazing. The ones we have are incredible. But it was as if you were standing right next to CeeDee Lamb or Michael Gallup. It was that clear.
I don't remember who the color commentator was for the game yesterday.
Jonathan Vilma.
It was Vilma?
Did that, yeah.
One thing he said that I really liked, he said, it feels like I'm in a movie watching that specific camera. And I know that those cameras are a little more expensive than every other one that they have. But if they could use that for presentation for every single game from here on out, I would be a huge fan of that.
I'll tell you what, how it works in the NFL and with games like that, because it is the big moneymaker, they're trying it out right now to see what they can do. Once you give them a whole offseason or so to work with it, believe me, they'll invest in those cameras.
Here's a story about it.
So if you buy them in bulk, I'm sure Sony will give you a deal.
Fox has caught the eyes of NFL fans the past 2 weeks. One of his end zone cameras. The occasional celebration shots, Washington, Seattle. This was week 15, Dallas, Philadelphia yesterday, have used the crystal clear images as a change of pace for the usual broadcast. They're now using the new Sony A7R 4, according to technology website Engadget. Wanted to use the camera to give viewers a more cinematic experience, which is what you mentioned. I mean, here's a picture of it. It is as crystal clear. Someone was saying it almost looks like it's fake.
Well, with 4K TVs and all the things that are around now, and
$10,000 camera.
I mean, Fox can look. So you have 8 broadcasts a week. No, 6 a week max, right? If you're or 7, because there'll be a Sunday night game, and so you can have 6, 7.
Sunday night's NBC.
Yeah, so I'm just talking about if you're Fox and CBS, and then Disney, ESPN, ABC, and the TV deal's about to come up. One of the things you do when the TV deal's about to come up is you innovate and you say, look what we're about to do to your product, and all these different things. Now, Fox can certainly afford, so it's $10,000 a piece. They can afford to buy 50 of those cameras.
Mike Davies from Fox Sports, this camera isn't ordinarily made to shoot live video. It certainly does a great job of shooting beautiful video, but it's not typically used for live. We were astonished by how much this was recognized. Certainly we liked it. People on our crew have been working with it all year, but we didn't know your ordinary viewer would see such a difference sitting on their couch. The response has been fantastic.
Yeah, so that means that they'll figure out a way. And who was the guy that we had on that was with CBS, and then he was at the beginning of the NFL on Fox? Gosh. We had him on the Super Bowl, I want to say, in San Francisco or Arizona.
You're not talking about NFL films, are you?
No. But he was the producer. He
did the Masters?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
And so he was the one who, when Fox got the NFL, was like, let's put a scoreboard in the corner all the time, and let's do this, and let's put injury updates on the bottom of the screen, and all these things. And all of a sudden, Fox became the gold standard for how you do a game. Lance Barrow, yeah. He was. That was a really interesting interview that he had. He was the one that was with Madden and Summerall.
Yep.
He kind of got within, and then they, all these people start doing these things. And I think Fox was the first one to say, let's get an official, retired official, to explain these complicated rules to us. And then now everybody does it, NFL and college.
Yeah. Lance Barrow, he's the one that produced the Masters for so long. Jim Nantz, of course, the voice of Fox and of CBS and their coverage of the Masters in the NFL. Kellen Moore today saying he's focused on the Cowboys game with the Giants, but acknowledged he has interest in Boise State. I just got to go through this process.
Yeah. I have reason to believe that he's going to get that job. But we'll see. I think that most of the ex-players that are Boise State, kind of hire, or, not power brokers, but at least have influence a lot of people want Kellen Moore to get that job. A lot of people around Boise want Kellen Moore to get that job.
Sounds like maybe he wants the job.
Oh, I think he absolutely wants the job. It's not the same thing, but when Michigan decided they wanted Jim Harbaugh, who was one of their better quarterbacks that they've ever had, Kellen Moore is the greatest quarterback in the history of Boise State. I mean, he's the dude. He's the Colt McCoy of, not that he wasn't he's not Vince Young, because that would be an unfair comparison, but I would say the Colt McCoy or, Josh Heupel of that, where just a beloved ex-player.
At 6:30 tonight, is that when Drake Toll's going to hammer social media? Is that right?
Yes.
With an announcement about SicEm365 Radio and some growth that we're having that we'll pass along to you through our social media, something that's a part of us as we first, back in mid-March, tried to figure out, okay, what the hell are we going to do? And then Colt and Brian and Ashley said, hey, you guys, we want to talk with you. And then 3 weeks later, we're doing a live talk show on April the 6th, and it's never stopped. We've had, last Thursday, Friday, this Thursday, Friday, and I think Thanksgiving Day, 5 days.
And that Thursday, Friday.
And that Thursday, Friday. And that's been it. It's been a great run. And we have just basically tickled what else is coming. We have the television studio, which we're in on 101 Elm Avenue on the corner of MLK and Elm. And that was something we launched right as football season was beginning. So there's going to be more, and you need to follow SicEm365 Radio, SicEm365.com for more information about what we're going to do with SicEm365 Radio as we continue to grow into the new year of 20 and 21. Paul, we have one more break here. Or we're done?
We'll just keep it.
All right, Tyler, what happens with you next? What are you here tomorrow?
No, he's here Wednesday.
Armstrong's back.
I mean, I can be. I don't mind hanging out here. This is you were talking about how you guys started April 6th and didn't know what to expect. And one of the first things that stood out to me was the presentation behind you, all the helmets, the pictures, the little things like this presentation. Maybe you don't think about it at first, but it attracts eyes because it looks really good behind you guys.
And then what we have...
It keeps people not looking at us, which is what we want.
Which is great.
That's basically what I was trying to say.
When we could have others in studio, like King McClure's back in studio with us on Wednesday, and the backdrop that we have there. And here's another thing about where we are. This is not it for us either here, as we continue to grow in many, many different ways. We'll be back on tomorrow, 3 o'clock. I mentioned former Cowboys quarterback Danny White, Drew Pearson on Wednesday. Those guys had a few passes from one to the other. In some great moments in Cowboys history.
It's funny that we're having Danny White on, because I do want to ask him about this, because he lived in an era where, there weren't 32 teams. So it was, if you had a job, if you had to be the backup somewhere, you're going to be the backup somewhere. And, it wasn't, the free agency certainly wasn't what it is now. So, he was if Danny White played in this era, he'd have played for the Cowboys.
There was no free agency.
Yeah, there was no free agency. Yeah. If Danny White played in this era, he'd have played for the Cowboys for 5 or 6 years, and then he would have gone and cashed in and been a starter for a team that didn't have a quarterback.
I don't know if he would have been here for 5 or 6 years. If you mean if there's Staubach or Aikman in front of you?
Yeah, 4 or 5 years. If he was Staubach in front of you.
Yeah. No, he would have been drafted. There would have been 32 teams, so he would have been drafted. He would have been somebody else's first round. He would have been somebody else's, franchise quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah.
He may not have been drafted by somebody who wanted depth. You may not have been able to draft him if you already had your guy.
Yeah, but the Rams and Cardinals this week have a good shot of neither of them having their starting quarterback. Jared Goff has a broken thumb. Kyler Murray has a lower leg injury. They've got to play with... I guarantee you, if you know anything about these guys, you spend way too much time watching football. So you need to get out and maybe do something else. But they don't have big-time backup quarterbacks in L.A. or Arizona. So that's a win and you're in playoff game that either team is going to have nobody playing quarterback.
Not only that, I read this earlier today. Depending on who wins the East, Dallas, New York, or Washington, Philadelphia's out. They're going to host a playoff game. Everyone's talking about, what are you going to do, go in and win? They're going to host a playoff game. There's a chance that at AT&T Stadium, the next week, the Cowboys are going to host, is that Arizona or Tampa Bay? Who's it going to be?
see, probably Tampa, right?
Well,
Tampa's,
I saw John Machota say, it was John Machota that mentioned, so the Cowboys are going to host Tom Brady in the first round of the playoffs, which that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
They're a division champion. They're going to host somebody because they're a division champion. And that's why you make the playoffs. And I know that you go, okay, if they get smoked 30-6 in the first round, was it worth it? They don't get to pick. I roll my dice. I get blown out in the first round or not. It's fun to make the playoffs. It's a big deal, even if you have a record like whoever's going to win the East, whether it's Dallas, New York, or Washington.
As of right now, if Dallas does win the division, they would be hosting Tampa.
They would be hosting Tom Brady and Tampa.
That's such a terrible matchup for those poor cornerbacks.
Is it?
Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown,
but Dallas,
Gronk.
I know it would be. You would think that could be a nightmare.
Ronald Jones might be back by then, playing in his hometown.
You know, yesterday, did all three wide receivers have a 100-yard day for them? Dalton 3 for 377 yards. It seemed like Gallup was huge. Cooper had a 50, 60-yard catch. So did CeeDee Lamb. They all had big catches.
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb's second touchdown was a run, though, on that end around.
But all of them had, I think all three had a catch of what seemed to be 50 yards or more in that game.
CeeDee's touchdown was 56, and Amari Cooper had that 65-yard catch and run. And
there are some teams that have no wide receivers, or they're all hurt, and they have right now this toys.
Which is why with the, what's going to wind up being the 11th pick in the draft now, after all that.
Are you complaining?
No.
Yeah, you are.
Hey, okay.
How many of the team tank now? How many Cowboys fans who were team tank a week or two ago are now, hey, we have a chance?
I'm not ever team tank because you can screw up the third pick just like you can screw up the 11th pick. My thing is, though, and I had a text exchange with a mutual friend of ours yesterday where I said, look, wake me up when they're in the NFC Championship game. This pointless optimism about
if they win
have
their
a
first round
chance.
playoff game, it will be insane. The expectations.
Again, wake me up when they're in the championship game for me thinking that this will be good, because it's been a long time since they've been in the Super Bowl.
Well, if you've had a team that has rarely been in
championship since they went to the Super Bowl.
If you have a team that's rarely in the playoffs, like Cleveland would love to be a first round loss, that means they made the playoffs, right?
Jerry doesn't raise division banners.
Jerry doesn't raise any banners lately.
Yeah, but I mean, he doesn't. I mean, they're not about that, and
I'm telling you,
he can't change that mission statement now.
That would
be like McDonald's is. I'm loving it. It'd be like, nah, it's fine.
I think
McDonald's. It's fine.
I think Cowboys fans would love to raise a playoff banner.
Yeah, I don't know. No.
You can never settle.
No, never settle.
If you're the standard,
you're America's team.
No, they're not.
I mean, but that's what they call themselves.
I know, but they're not anymore. And now I don't know who is, because New England's, that's over. Mm-hmm. They almost became America's team. And I understand the copyright, whatever you want to call it. I understand this now. I've never argued with that. But who is? Patrick Mahomes win another Super Bowl. Kansas City's got great fans. Pittsburgh has a huge win for them yesterday.
Yeah, I think if the Chiefs win, the Chiefs win again, because people like Patrick Mahomes so much. Like, tell me one unlikable thing about that guy.
There's nothing.
There's nothing.
But eventually people will get tired of him winning.
But that's the same. Like, if you compare, tell me one unlikable thing about Roger Staubach.
Nothing. Except if you didn't like the Cowboys. But here's the thing, though. You hear about the Cowboys being America's team, and we understand the merchandise sales and the ratings, no question. And we understand how their fans travel to road games. But then when you see other teams invade your own stadium, can you be America's team?
No.
Can you?
Not really.
Do the Steelers fans have somebody invade their stadium?
Look,
the Packers fans have somebody invade their stadium?
The Cowboys are America's team, kind of like U2 used to be the greatest rock band.
Okay. Because they do travel great. They have people in Arizona, or they have them in, but do other stadiums that are competitive as far as fan base national, Pittsburgh, Green Bay's national, do they have in any game?
No.
Where there's 8,000 other fans?
No.
There's a pocket of fans, on the travel parties and stuff like that.
I know we're running over a little bit here, but I'll explain my U2 analogy. U2, again, Bono, like every album they came out with was like straight to the top. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, everybody woke up in the morning and they had a U2 album for free. And that's when you knew they'd crossed over the line. Like, the Cowboys know that people care, but not everybody cares.
If you
if you woke up in the morning and said, "Oh, look, I've got a U2 album," what if you don't like U2?
Yeah, I know.
I
Yeah.
mean, so they assumed that everyone who had an iPhone would just want their music, which is again where you've stopped being the greatest anymore.
All right, thanks to all of our guests today. Jenny Isham Fuller, Jenny Fuller Isham. Appreciate her time. Obviously, thanks as well to Phil Bennett. Thanks to Ryan Leaf. Thanks to Colt Barber. Thanks to Shannon Hall. And I'm missing somebody else. Adam Winkler, who covers Washington and the mess that is the Washington football team. All right, for Paul Catalina, Tyler Bolden, thank you. Craig is back with us next week. We're back tomorrow, 3 to 6. Good night on SicEm365 Radio.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, and Balcones whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, rye, brimstone, and the all-new lineage in stock. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.